Our story kicks off in Alls, right inside the royal castle of the Cathedral Kingdom. A grand audience is kicking off, and Hayes and Marcus Alville stride toward the throne. The Lion Duke stares straight ahead, lost in the sting of the king's familiar, nostalgic face. Nobles huddle in whispers, claiming the dukes are seconds away from being kicked down into the desolate old capital. The duke scoffs to himself, instantly convinced this can't be the real reason behind the summits. He marches up to His Majesty and shouts that he's served the crown with ironclad loyalty for 30 long years. He throws down a challenge to his brother and flat out says he won't mind at all if he's watched. The king shuts that idea down fast, swearing he never once doubted Hazen's loyalty. The duke clocks it instantly for what it is, a full-blown farce, and then he starts grilling the air, suspecting a secret report has already been filed. He seethes at the nobles, furious at how reckless they are, and how they can't stop spreading gossip. He's crushed by the fact that their bond shattered, mourning how he once swore their brotherhood would last forever. Now all he can see is that massive icy gap stretching between them. Right as his audience figures it out, the duke snaps around on his heel and storms off. He snaps an order to his loyal retainer, Adamant, and tells him they're heading back to Alval, no delays. Their escort kicks off the grueling trip back from the capital, and the road stretches on and on. Mounted knights swarm the carriage, slinging dust into the air along the open road. Inside the carriage, the Duke and the Adamants sink into a crushing, rumbling silence that feels like it might swallow them whole. The Duke's got a heavy heart, and he's struggling to figure out if he can even keep doing his duties. He looks back on all those hard years of service and decides it's finally time to lay down his duties and rest. Suddenly, the Duke's eyes snap open, and his senses blast into full battle mode. Adamant yanks the carriage door open, staring out like, "What the heck stopped us?" The Duke snaps out his retainer's name, his instincts screaming that something's wildly off. Adamant tries to brush it off, but the Duke stays razor-sharp and refuses to be convinced. The Duke's stomach growls like thunder, and he immediately snaps that he's starving. With a brutal jolt, the whole convoy screeches to a sudden dead stop. A scout throws the door open and blurts, "Sorry," as he rushes in with an emergency so sudden it can't wait. He reports spotting a suspicious building that definitely wasn't there on their last journey. The Duke and Adamant locked eyes, hooked by that wild report like it was something way bigger. The scout points it out and confirms it's a kind of architecture he's never laid eyes on before. He fumbles for the right words, then blurts out that it's something they've got to see with their own eyes. The Duke curls his mustache, and the mystery hooks his curiosity so hard it feels like it's burning through him. He checks in with Adam and solidly confirms, "It's been 2 months since we pulled that off." The Duke already knows that anything built in just 2 months would demand an impossible level of speed. Adamant points out how glaringly obvious it is on that road, right where they've got total control. He shuts down the whole unauthorized farm or ranch idea like it's nonsense. Trying to build here is pure madness. This place is basically screaming, "Come rob us," with bandits and wild beasts lining up for the feast. The Duke's face cracks into a grin. This mystery is suddenly getting seriously wild. He vows to investigate, but Adamant snaps back instantly, warning him how deadly it is. They'll stay hidden and watch from a safe distance, because the Jew's warning says they're done for if they get too close. The Duke orders Adamant to move ahead, but the knight just shuts his mouth and stays silent. The Duke slams down a hard command if danger erupts. Adamant must fall back without hesitation. His face hardened, and his decision was already final. The Duke drops the final order, and they sprint out to investigate. They stride beneath a giant, stormy sky, closing in on the unknown place that's waiting ahead. The moment the building pops into view, the Duke's eyes blow wide with raw, total disbelief. Both men freeze in shocked silence, staring at that impossible, otherworldly structure like reality just broke. Adam just locked eyes, and his mind started scrambling, like it couldn't believe what it was seeing. The Duke leans in and shoves Adamant to stare harder at the impossible details. He just stares, awestruck by that flawless glass door, like something carved by the gods themselves. He points out the hyper-realistic food model, so delicate, so masterfully made it looks like it could jump off the table. Then he stops to stare at that huge sign, foreign script, but somehow it's crafted with pure beauty. The Duke can't help but wonder if it's a foreign diner, because strange music is blasting from the inside. He nods along with his retainer, then realizes this place is downright eerie. The Duke blurts out the retainer's name, and his curiosity finally goes nuclear. Adamant dashes around like he's on fire, trying to slam the brakes on his lord before he steps into that mysterious unknown building. The Duke won't budge. He demands to go first, claiming he'll scout the situation himself. "Yo, listen," the Duke blurts out, adamant as ever. "There's a person trapped inside." They spot a young guy rocking weird clothes, and they clock the key detail immediately. He's totally unarmed. The man keeps eating, totally calm and blissfully clueless that they're right there. He slurps his noodles loud enough to shake the air, while two noblemen stand outside, staring in silence. Adamant clocks the man chowing down on the exact dish, sitting in the display. He's digging into a super detailed replica slice of cake soba, right there at the window. They keep staring, soaking in the calm like it's a mystery they can't crack. He wiped his bowl clean, then guzzled the last drop of broth before it all vanished. The Duke stares him down, and you can practically see a plan ignite in his head. The Duke leans in, asking if it looks dangerous, and Adamant, with nerves on full alert, cautiously admits that it doesn't. The Duke breaks into a chuckle, grinning at his stubborn, ever-cautious retainer like it's the same old story. The Duke snaps his hand up and points straight at the shop's entrance. He slams his decision down and storms in to grill that man about what's going on. Adamant starts to argue again, but his lord cuts him off because the decision is already made. The Duke finally cracks and admits he just wants to taste that food he saw. Adamant spits a warning about poison, but the Duke doesn't back down. He's ready to investigate anyway. The Duke plants a determined stride toward the shop's entrance. He thrusts his hand forward, determined to yank that mysterious door open with his own power. Adam shouts a warning, then barrels forward to stop his reckless lord. He snaps his gift on an insane danger sense ability passed down from a god-high son. Red light blares danger, blue light flashes safe. Gifts are the gods' power packages, handed to mortals so they can stand up to monsters and survive. The Duke stands on edge, pacing in his mind, desperate to know what verdict they'll slam down on this building. A brilliant orb of pure blue light explodes from Adam's outstretched hand. The Duke swivels toward his flustered knight, grinning like he already knows the outcome. "It's safe, Adamant." He jabs a finger at the shop and grins, proudly saying, "It's blue." Adam exhales in relief, but his hands still shake as he pleads with his lord to stop charging ahead like that. The Duke strides straight to the door with fearless swagger, and his knight gets left trailing behind. Adamant snaps at the guards to stay razor alert, then orders them to ready themselves for the coming storm on the shop. He watches his lord step in, but that worry is still etched all over his face. The two men huddle side by side right at the doorway, poised to burst inside. The door glides open by itself, and both of them jump back like a ghost, just kick the room. They stare in disbelief as insanely advanced, super expensive magic gets poured into what should have been nothing more than a simple door. They froze in the doorway, words caught in their throats, stunned by the sheer burst of magic on display. The inside was spotless, blindingly bright, and so alien to their world it felt like they'd stepped into another universe. The young shopkeeper snaps his head up and greets them with a warm, welcoming smile. The Duke leans in and asks the young man straight out if they can step into his establishment. Yakito jolts back, staring in disbelief as these towering, lavishly dressed visitors step in. Two noblemen stand there, holding their patience like a loaded spring, waiting for the shopkeeper to finally answer. The Duke's stare cuts through the room, razor sharp, reading the young man like a puzzle. Yakito clutched the bowl and felt it. The customers in front of him weren't normal at all. He glances at the plain bowl sitting in his hands, then shoots his eyes back to his own fingers. The Duke clocks the guy instantly 100 human, not some elf or dwarf pretending. Yakito's completely flustered, staring at his doorway like, when did these terrifying, powerful guys show up? Duke Alval and his captain, Adamant, stare on in total disbelief, completely thrown off. A jaw-dropping realization hits the young shopkeeper's face like a lightning strike. He stammers and scrambles for the right words, trying to stay composed as those intimidating visitors loom over him. With a sudden jolt of clarity, he blurts out, "So you're here as customers, right?" After a beat, the Duke nods and confirms, yep, they're real customers. Relief floods the shopkeeper's face, and pride in his craft hits like a wave. 1 second he's all flustered, and the next, he's standing tall with total fearless confidence. The nobleman froze in shock as his sudden dramatic change left them speechless. He dips into a deep, formal bow, welcoming them with full respect to his shop Nadai Tsugisoba. He says the shop only serves soba, just two kinds, and that's it. Two men lock eyes again. And pure, total confusion hits them like a wave. A jolt of wild curiosity rips through the mighty Duke. He demanded to know what the soba shop was itching to figure out about this mysterious new food. The shopkeeper stares in shock because he's never once heard of it, and that's a first for him. Yakido stared at this wild new reality, eyes narrowed in deep thought. He pushes them to take a bite, swearing up and down they'll find it absolutely delicious. The Duke's eyes lit up. He's completely won over, and he can't wait to dig into that meal. He waves off his guards, who are standing right outside the shop, and brushes their concerns aside. With a sharp nod, the Duke snaps 2 bowls of cake soba, and the order hits the table. Yukido takes their order, smiles politely, and guides them straight to an empty table. 2 noblemen march to their seats with unshakable grim resolve. From behind the counter, Yakito leans in, eyes locked on his very first big customers. The Duke can't stop trembling with anticipation, but Adamant keeps his eyes razor-focused and stays on guard. He lets out a heavy sigh and tells his captain that right now, there's nothing left he can do. A fresh glass of water slides in front of him, and he freezes stunned, staring like he just saw magic. Yakido beams as he pours them water, totally clueless that their minds are blown. The Duke can't believe his eyes. This glass is crystal clear, and that ice is floating in mid-air like it's breaking the laws of nature. He tells them the water's on the house and the refills are free too. That small gesture is so wildly extravagant it instantly shatters the Duke's composure. He can't even wrap his head around it. This kind of luxury is handed to customers without a second thought. He can't stop thinking about how life-saving clean water is and how rare, precious that ice really is. Getting spotless, icy water for free is basically unheard of. Yakido grins and shouts that their soba is almost ready to hit the table. Can't resist it. The Duke snatches the glass and starts chugging. "Delicious," he blurts, just as Adam scrambles to rein in his reckless lord. Adamant snaps at him for not waiting, yet the Duke doesn't even flinch. He takes a long sip, savoring every drop, and declares it the purest, top-shelf nectar around day. The Duke shuts down the whole poison-tasting idea for soba like it's unnecessary nonsense. His loyal captain snaps back, insisting there's no way to know something like that. A hush falls for a second, and both men lock eyes, sharing the same electric rush like it's about to explode. Yakito shows up grinning from ear to ear and delivers their meal like a lifeline. He plunks down the cake soba like it's the ultimate proof that simple food can hit harder than anything. Adam stares down at the bowl, and a quiet "oh" slips out of his lips. He leans in, spots the clear, tea-colored broth, and clocks the perfectly sliced grey noodles. A little heap of thinly sliced green veggies goes on top as a quick, easy garnish. He spots the dark, papery layer and instantly knows it's a rare kind of seaweed. It's a plain little presentation, but you can feel the insane skill and careful effort in every second. That mouth-watering aroma hangs in the air like a secret signal, subtle but impossible to ignore. The Duke studies the noodles and realizes they're not spun from any grain grown nearby. The idea of serving noodles in soup hits him as totally alien. After sampling the food from kingdom after kingdom, this dish feels like a delicious riddle with no answer in sight. Adamant points out the missing familiar utensils, and that one detail instantly snags Yukito's attention. Yakido leans in and tells you they don't just eat with any tools, they use werabashi, special utensils made for the job. Adam has never even heard the word, and pure confusion smashes into him like a truck. The shopkeeper slickly reaches into the container and yanks out a pair of wooden sticks. He yanks them apart in one clean, practiced snap. No hesitation, all control. That sharp blast snaps the moment in half, and both men jolt, eyes bulging with pure shock. He shows you exactly how to use those 2 sticks to pinch your food like a pro. The Duke finds the idea of eating with nothing but sticks wildly, almost unbelievably strange. This isn't some small-town tradition. It's a full-on collision of worlds. He can't shake the thought, where did this young man come from? Some far-off continent nobody's ever heard of. The Duke steps up to the challenge, and Adamant calmly asks for a fork, like he's already one move ahead. Yakido fires them up one last time, and both of them dig in and start eating. The Duke hesitates for a split second, then suddenly locks in and starts using the chopsticks like he's got it down. He can't help but smile. There's this rugged charm in those simple, slightly flawed utensils. He decides his very first taste is going to be that fragrant, steaming soup. He hoists that heavy bowl to his mouth, then takes a tiny, delicate sip like it's priceless. In the blink of an eye, that flavor flips his whole world on its head. That taste hits like an ocean-pure mommy magic, and they both burst out, "This is delicious." He leans in and savors that fragrant aroma, letting the soft, rounded saltiness hit his senses like a perfect bite. A deep, cozy warmth blooms from his throat and sinks all the way into his stomach. He cradles the bowl with reverence, treating it like an absolute masterpiece. It tastes like the ocean breeze, but without a single hint of nasty, fishy stink. It hits you with that crisp, untouched South Ocean feeling, clean, cold, and crystal clear. He's hit with a shock. This garnish bursts with a sharp, refreshing flavor that snaps his taste buds awake. He absolutely loves that warm, pleasant kick and how it snaps with crisp, satisfying texture every single time. He clocks it instantly, those sliced green veggies, and they're the perfect flavor counterpunch. Both guys nod in sync because this deliciousness is straight up unimaginable. All right, he flashes a plan in his head. Next stop, noodles. He grabs a whole bundle of noodles and starts slurping straight from the bowl like it's the best thing on earth. The noodles glide out of his chopsticks and melt straight into his mouth. He keeps slurping those noodles, and the excitement keeps rising with every bite. He scoops up a perfect mouthful of noodles and lets them swim in the savory broths. He leans in and takes a giant, satisfying bite of those warm, chewy noodles. He gulps down a mouthful with a deep, satisfying smack, like pure relief hitting his throat. That taste instantly paints a calm, sun-soaked pasture in your mind. Those noodles have the perfect bite, and they soak up and carry every drop of soup like it was made just for them. That warm, rustic smell hits him like a time machine, flooding his chest with deep, nostalgic joy. With a quiet clink, he sets the bowl down totally empty, like the silence has a weight. Tears hit his eyes, and with raw emotion, one single tear of joy slid down his cheek. He can't forget the crushing, joyless grind of his life in the capital. His mission and duties have felt like brutal chains wrapped tight around his soul. In that pitch-black silence, all he'd truly chased was one thing: peace, right there in his chest. He never thought a dish from far away could slam open the only door to real relief. That humble bowl of soba packed with the taste of life finally snapped the chains and set him free. He shuts his eyes, and calm settles over his face like a quiet wave. The bowl's bone dry, the meal's gone, and the whole experience is finally wrapped up. He lets out a satisfied sigh like, that hit the spot. Because yeah, it was absolutely ridiculously delicious. The adamant, calm soul leans in and gulps a long, refreshing drink of water. Yakito steps up to his first customers, leaning in as he asks, "So are you satisfied?" Duke Alvil slams down a drink, grinning like he's totally thrilled with the meal. He takes one long, refreshing sip and declares the meal a magnificent feast. His adamant knight nods without hesitation, admitting he's never tasted anything this good. The Duke torments his loyal retainer until he finally breaks, cracking that first real smile. Yakido, the shopkeeper, grins and thanks them, then drops a chilling hint that there's something bigger waiting just out of sight. The Duke and his knight lock eyes, and suddenly, boom, curiosity hits them so hard it almost feels like a jolt. Yakito flips out a spice shaker and demands to know if they really used the shikimi tagarashi. He tells them it's a secret 7-spice blend that flips the soba's flavor the moment it hits. He rips into it, saying that sharp spice kicks the whole dish up a level. The noblemen stare in disbelief, wondering could that perfect dish be even better. A brutal craving hits out of nowhere, and they've got to taste this brand new dimension of flavor. No excuses. The Duke snatches the adamant in a split second, then blurts for another bowl just to dive back into that spice. He bellows for 2 more bowls, and Yakito grins as he happily takes them. Yukito lights up the moment with unstoppable enthusiasm and a triumphant little fist pump. Flames burn in his eyes, and fresh purpose surges through him like a punch to the chest. A flashback slams in snow, falling on that brutal night when he truly believed his life was finished. Even drowning in despair, he clung to one blazing passion: staying sober. He swore that once again, in a brand new world, he'd fire up the stove and cook. He swore he'd finally make them perish, Tsujisoba, because he loved them more than anything. His tale kicks off with Hatsushiro Yakido, once a manga artist, now standing on the edge of something bigger. Right after university, he shot straight into the one thing he'd always dreamed of: his very own weekly serialization. But the truth hit like a brick, 19 pages in just 7 days, and it was pure grind. Those endless, punishing days kept dragging on, grinding his spirit into the dirt. His only way out was a quiet, no-frills Nadi Susoba's humble shop. In a tired life full of nothing, that small restaurant was his one real joy. That 24-hour stand in Eat Soba chain was always sitting right there for him, ready whenever hunger struck. That warm, budget-friendly soba hit like a cozy miracle, and its gentle, rustic flavor soothed his soul. It was a cozy sanctuary where tired, hard-working folks could finally breathe, heal, and feel safe. That tiny sanctuary, that simple spark of joy, Surya Soba, fate already sealed in the dice. After 3 brutal years, his manga finally ended and he threw in the towel on drawing for good. He stumbled into a fresh purpose, clocking in as a part-timer at his favorite shop. He knew the time had come. Now he'd heal others by serving them the most delicious soba. He grinned as he served customers, and that job suddenly felt like it was made for him. He threw everything he had into every task, pouring his heart and soul into it like his life depended on it. 3 years later, his relentless grind finally paid off. He landed a full-time position. Then they shot his career straight up. He got promoted to manager of a brand new branch in Suidobashi. On opening day, he stomped through unseasonable snow, grinning like pure excitement had him by the throat. He spotted a tiny girl with wild animal ears tiptoeing onto the ice. From snowy Hokkaido, this was all he knew, while the Tokyo locals were the ones who just couldn't handle the cold. Unseen, a massive truck thundered down a slick, snow-choked road. Suddenly, the truck hit slick ice. Its heavy tires lost grip and skidded out fast. The screech of tires tore through the air, and he whipped around, eyes bulging with sheer terror. He snapped into action, shoved the girl out of danger, and stood his ground, taking the truck head-on. When that umbrella got smashed, it felt like his whole life had just been erased. Everything flipped on its head in one brutal, disorienting blast of impact. He shot upright, stunned to the core because somehow he wasn't dead. He spun in place, totally stunned, his thoughts crashing in pure disbelief. He sat there, completely alone, staring down an endless ocean of clouds. He heaved himself up off the soft ground, fighting the urge to believe it was all a dream. A spark of hope flared up. Maybe, somehow, he'd made it out alive. But as he spun around, he realized this place could only be heaven. He replayed the accident in his mind and realized he must have died the moment it happened. Despair crashed into him. This new life didn't even get a chance to start before it was gone. He broke down in tears, raging that his dream of making soba was finally crushed for good. He clenched his fist, pure fury burning through him at how cruel and totally meaningless that ending was. A soft, soothing voice from behind cut through the air and told him straight up to stop drowning in that pessimism. He wiped his tears away and shot his gaze up, locking onto the voice's source. He snapped around, completely caught off guard by the sudden, unexpected arrival. A blinding, god-tier presence stepped forward and announced himself as Hatsushiro Yakido. Yachito stared at the god and realized he looked way more Greek than the usual Japanese style. The god leaned in and declared, "I'm not from Earth, I came from another universe." Yakito froze in shock, suddenly understanding what it would mean to step into a whole different world. The god spoke in a calm voice, then dropped the truth like a hammer. This was a textbook case of reincarnation. He painted his world as a wild fantasy realm where monsters stalked and magic burned in the air. In his world, the people don't just live, they're handed rare, game-changing gifts that supercharge their abilities. Yakita couldn't shake the question, why would some god even bother with a nobody like him? The god flashed a smile and said the truth was way simpler than anyone expected. He handed Yakito a wild chance rebirth in this brand new magical world. Yakito leaned in and demanded to know, could stunts like that really be pulled off at all? The god smirked and declared that for a deity, nothing is truly impossible. Yukido's excitement surged, but the god cut in and warned him there was a catch. His fresh start wasn't happening on Earth anymore, it was calling him to the god's world. The revelation slammed into Yachito like a truck, leaving him totally stunned and unable to speak. He panicked hard, swearing he was utterly helpless and that there was no way he'd survive even a moment there. The god let out a chilling chuckle, then promised right to his face that nobody was walking away and leaving him behind. Like a special favor, he promised he'd grant any gift Yakito wanted. With that wild, powerful gift in his hands, He could rise as a legendary hero or even seize the throne as a king. He could kick back forever, never lifting a finger for work again. He could build a whole harem and finally live out every wild desire he's been craving. Every dream he ever had was about to land in his lap. No demon lord to topple, no final battle needed. Yakito swallowed his nerves and dared to ask what would happen if he ever refused. He'd sit through an entire century, praying for the one miracle, getting reborn as a human, with zero promises. Yukito's heart dropped the moment he realized there was no good way out, just a grim choice that sent panic crashing in. God himself laid it out: reincarnate or roll the dice and face whatever comes next. Yakito finally confessed there was still one last thing he desperately wanted to do. The god leaned in and told him, "Anything you wish for will come true." Yukito clenched his fists and declared his one true wish. He was going to make soba. The god heard his strange request and smiled soft, steady, like he already knew every word he was about to say. A single bead of sweat popped onto the god's skin as he weighed that wild, impossible wish. He remembered one wild detail: Yakito had actually worked in a soba shop. Yakito snapped at him, with fire in his voice, screaming that this wasn't some ordinary shop. He blurted out that he was determined to open a Nidai Sugisoba shop. The god paced his thoughts and quietly mouthed the name again and again, Sudisoba, as if it held the answer. He nodded, leaning in for every detail, because he was determined to craft the perfect gift. Bursting with joy, Yakito leaned in and excitedly started telling you all about his beloved restaurant. He spilled every last detail, letting his whole heart pour out to the patient deity. The god leaned in, eyes burning, drinking in every ounce of passion behind that weird, wild request. With a sharp snap of his fingers, the god announced the gift was finally ready. He smirked as he realized Yakito was the very first to ever make that kind of wish. Yakito demanded the final yes. Could he actually pull off soba magic in that place? The god smirks at Yakito and whispers that some secrets are safer buried than revealed. He tells Yakito, "If you actually put that gift to work, then you've got to level up for real." The god leans in and reassures him, making it crystal clear he can level up without lifting a single fighter's fist. He orders Yakito to say "status open" and checks his gift's details right on the spot. The god steps up and booms, "It's time, go," then leans in to ask if he's ready. Yakito swallows his nerves and admits he's not ready, but he knows they're sending him anyway. With a smug, knowing grin, the god just nods along and gives him exactly what he wants. The god throws his hands wide in a grand gesture, launching the child of Earth onto a brand new journey. Yukito screams as a blinding, brilliant light swallows every inch of his body. The god shuts his eyes tight and whispers a silent wish for the boy's future. He's betting that this child of Earth will blow in a whole new wind for all of them. A thick black border snaps into place, slicing right through the sky, one side the heavens, the other the world of mortals. The recap snaps back to the present outside that impossible, otherworldly soba shop. 2 empty bowls sit on a tray, and the meal is done completely gone. Totally satisfying. Duke Alvil grabs the manager's gift cake soba and thanks him like it just soothed the burn out of his tired soul. Then he steps up and declares, "I'm Hayes, and this is Marcus Alvil, the lord of these lands." Taking a cue from his lord, he strides in and introduces Captain Gashu Adamant of the Knights. Yakito's mind was screaming when he realized he'd just served powerful nobles. He surges with excitement as he realizes his soba is going to crush it right here. He drops into a deep bow and introduces himself with pride, Hatsushiro Yakido, the manager. He snaps back and corrects himself on the spot. "I'm Yakido Hatsushiro," he says, proudly repping the local style. The Duke and Adamant hunch forward, and the second their faces lock in, the whole room goes deadly serious. The Duke leaned in and demanded, "Tell me your family name, what are you called?" Yakito shoots back that, where he comes from, having a family name is totally normal. The Duke leans in and says, "That's way too unusual for our land." Leaning in close, he declares that he's got questions lined up for Lord Hatsushiro. The Duke demanded to know why he dared open a shop out in the middle of nowhere. He can't stop thinking about how that shop got built without permission or how his patrols totally missed it. Yakito finally clicks with what he's been saying, and then the shop just pops up out of thin air. Panic slams into him as he realizes they're onto him. The Duke finally cracks. He admits his questions are brutal, but he demands an answer anyway. Yakido takes a deep breath and steels himself to spill his unbelievable story to them. He kicks things off by telling you he's from another world, Earth, to be exact. He relives the moment destiny crashed into his life when he met a god in the heavens. He tells them his life on Earth got cut short in a sudden, unforgiving accident. The god handed him the chance to be reborn and sealed it with a special gift just for him. A burst of static flashes across the screen, ripping you out of one world and slamming you into the next like a violent glitch. Then he blinked, and there he was, alone on a dusty road, stretching through an endless, brutal wilderness. He whipped his gaze around, stunned out of his mind, trying to figure out if this really was the other world. Then it hit him, God's command to speak. The words was clear, status open. He pumped his fist, decided to go for it, and blurted out the command like a thunderclap. A glowing translucent screen snapped into view, blasting his stats and unveiling his brand new gift. His gift was called the Nade Sugisoba Ice Sky Branch. He locked onto the screen, utterly stunned at how bluntly the title just said it plain. He muttered that the god could have picked something way more intense, with actual atmosphere. He devoured the full breakdown of his insane shop-summoning power. He couldn't stop wondering, would this really summon that exact pseudo-bashi branch he already knew? He practically exploded with joy when he discovered it had endless ingredients, and even a living space that felt alive. He scanned the barren horizon, hunting for the perfect place to set up. All alone with nobody watching, he couldn't wait, so he unleashed his new power and put it to the test. He took a deep breath, ready to call his beloved restaurant into existence. He screamed with everything he had, Nadai Tsuja Soba Ice Sky Branch. With a blinding flash, the building suddenly snapped into existence. The summoning hit in an instant so brutal and strong, it rattled the air itself around him. He froze in pure awe as his soba shop finally came into view. It was flawless, an exact, jaw-dropping copy of the Suido Bashe branch. Yakido wraps up his tale and admits it. He didn't belong here long, he just landed in this world. He wraps up his story, hands shaking as he waits for the Duke's verdict. The Duke leans back and realizes Yakito isn't just some ordinary guy. There's something dangerous about him. Yakito watches him closely, dread creeping in as she wonders what he's cooking in his head. The Duke lunges forward, snapping, "Yakido, he's a stranger to me." The word lingers in the air like a ticking bomb, packed with consequences that hit like a fist. Yakito keeps blurting out the unfamiliar word stranger, like it's a question he can't stop asking. The Duke leans in and explains that what they're seeing is something called a visitor from other worlds. He brings up that the last stranger he met was a boy from Kenya, back when it was 30 years ago. Yukito leans in and tells everyone he's not from here. He's from a totally different Earth country called Japan. The Duke, Adam, and Amit didn't even know a country called Neon existed. Yakito's stomach drops as he realizes, with sheer dread, that he's the only Japanese person around. A wild, mind-blowing realization hits him like lightning out of nowhere. He finally understands he's about to become the world's first pioneer. Blazing the trail and introducing SOBA to everyone, he pumps his fists skyward, feeling the spark come roaring back as his new mission takes over. Then the Duke throws down a jaw-dropping offer. Yakito is invited to his domain, Alval. He calls Alville a colossal city bigger only than the royal capital, with a whole mountain of residents here. He knows countless people are about to crave his SOBA. He steps in and vows to put Yukito's shop under his own personal protection. Yukito's head erupts with vivid dreams of serving food to tired city folks, like it's already happening. He snaps back with thanks, then demands to know what does protection even mean, for real. The Duke leans in and tells them, strangers are no ordinary people. These extraordinary souls need protecting at all costs. That otherworldly knowledge of theirs is straight-up power, something everyone else would kill to get their hands on. Yakito threw a fit and insisted his gift was nothing more than a plain old soba shop. The Duke snaps back that conjuring a building packed with endless food is a danger. He breaks it down like a war plan picture. A fortress that can stand without a single supply line. With no protection, the Weinheim Empire would come hunting for him. Yakito finally realizes he'll only survive if he clings to the Duke's protection. The Duke declares it's the nobility's sworn duty to shield bold, innovative strangers. To keep the peace and get a place to live, Yakito just handed over taxes in return for protection. He leans in and asks if Yakido will finally serve his soba to the people of Alval. The mighty Duke drops his head low, begging the shopkeeper with everything he's got. Adamic blurts out in pure shock when his lord drops an unprecedented act of humility. Yukito freezes on the spot, totally stunned by the nobleman's massive, jaw-dropping gesture. He knows that this top-tier noble is bowing his head just to shield him. In that moment, he feels it real kindness and solid character radiating from the Duke. No mask at all. He feels like, as a man, he has to match that sincerity with action. He bows just as low, then gladly takes the Duke's offer like it's a gift meant for him. The Duke and Adamant lift their gaze, triumphant grins breaking through pure, breathless relief. Yukito cuts in and says he's the only condition they need to agree on. The Duke and Adamant lean in, eyes locked on him, and they can't help but wonder what he's about to ask. The story snaps to a shadowy carriage rolling forward, kicking off a brand new journey. The moment their new partnership was sealed, the three men burst into a hearty laugh. The Duke swings his hand toward the future, braced to open the new shop for business. As dusk rolls in, the Duke stands tall and proudly unveils his domain, the breathtaking city of Alville. Yukito's jaw drops as the city's massive scale overwhelms him, his face flushing with pure wonder. He stares in awe at the ancient streets, and even with no electricity anywhere, he instantly knows this is a major city. A jaw-dropping castle, drenched in moonlight, towers high above the sprawling city like it's daring the night to look away. The Duke invites him into his residence, and the place hits Yukito like a German fairy tale castle, right out of a dream. A kindly host crafted bows at every step, guiding their honored guest through the castle's glittering grand halls. In that lavish guest room, Yukito's breath catches as he stares at the wildly ornate decor. The Duke flashes a grin, telling them, "Let's rest up tonight, we'll meet again in the morning." The very next morning bursts over Alval, flooding the city with fresh, blinding light. Breakfast is a no-frills rural feast, crunchy hard bread, a simple salad, and a plain boiled egg. The Duke leans in and asks if Yukito slept well. Yukito flashes a polite nod and says, "Yes, I did." Yukito bites into the bread and grimaces it's a rock hard and bone dry, and when he checks the salad, he realizes it's just salted and nothing more. He suddenly gets it. This plain little meal is the real deal, the everyday cuisine of this brand new world. After they finish eating, the Duke slams his fist on the table and announces he's already set aside a piece of land for Yukito. Yukito gets hit with a sudden shock and grills the offer on the spot. Then, eyes locked in, he confirms the land is really meant for him. They smash up to a towering stone wall, and Yukito and his retainers are left completely baffled. Yukito's voice shakes as he nervously quizzes the Duke. "Are you sure this plain wall is the real chosen spot?" The Duke leans in and points out that the garden's back wall is basically the castle's secret defensive stronghold. Yukito frets over security, but the Duke just laughs it off and tells him it's totally fine. And yeah, the Duke claims this spot himself because it's perfectly handy for the castle crew. Yukito says the place is perfect. Then his eyes narrow because there's one crucial thing he has to ask. He demanded a straight answer: could the shop serve the general public, or was it locked up just for the castle crowd? He tells them his dream is simple. No matter who you are or where you stand, everyone gets to sit down and savor his soba. He makes it crystal clear this isn't just a job to him. Serving SOBA to everyone is the one wish he's living for. The Duke flashes him a warm smile and hands over full control, letting him run the shop however he wants. Yukito's face lights up with pure joy at the Duke's understanding, and he beams as he throws out his heartfelt thanks. With everything finally locked in, the Duke can't contain his excitement. He orders Yukito to summon his restaurant right away. Face to face with the towering stone wall, Yukito clenches his resolve and gets ready to unleash his rare, earth-shaking gift. He lifts his fist, roars the command, and bam, his otherworldly soba shop materializes out of thin air. With a blinding flash, a modern restaurant drops into existence, and everyone watching just can't process what they're seeing. The Duke bursts into roaring laughter, utterly captivated by the insane sight of the shop sitting right against his wall. Yukito lets out a quiet smile, thinking this modern shop just somehow clashes perfectly with the moment. The Duke's retainers are in full panic mode, screaming that some insane building just popped out of nowhere. Dukai Sin grins and teases Yukito, asking if he can steal another bowl of soba. Yukito leans in and reminds the nobleman, "I already ate breakfast this morning, so don't start that again." The Duke proudly announces he chose a light meal on purpose, basically vibrating with anticipation for what's coming. Yukito thrusts the new menu into his hands, and the Duke's jaw drops in pure shock. He tells everyone his power just leveled up, and now the menu's been upgraded with fresh new items. 2 fresh bowls pop into existence, one blazing bright with harinso soba, the other sinking deep and dark with wakame soba. The Duke takes one bite of a brand new dish, then erupts in pure delight with a shout. Yukido's gift, Ndai Sugisoba, Ice Sky Branch, lets his menu explode with new options. The Duke's retainers freeze in confusion, staring at the weird food sitting right in front of them. He grins and orders his men to eat, then casually drops the bomb that it's soba from another world. One night, with nerves jangling, he lifted his bowl and braced for his very first bite of soba. That first burst of flavor slams into him, and his eyes shoot wide open with pure, stunned disbelief. All the knights burst out in stunned excitement, shouting over just how impossibly delicious that soup is. As they head out, the Duke digs in, swearing he'll be back for more, and soon, Yukito grins and taps his foot, happily waiting for the next customer as the seconds tick by. But as the days drag on, his bright smile starts to crack. Worry creeps in and steals the joy from his face. With a grimace, he realizes right now those customers aren't coming. He leans out for a peek and spots someone watching him, and that uneasy feeling hits hard. He can't stop thinking, should he yell out to the people on the street and risk everything? Suddenly, Captain Adaman bursts in, rolling up with his own squad of knights. He admits he skipped the morning meal, then drags his men along so they can eat. Yukito beams, thanks him, and eagerly shoves the new menu options at them like, "You've got to try these." The sparkling harinso and wakame soba bowls hit the screen again, gleaming like they're begging you to take a bite. Adamant scribbles down the fresh toppings as his men stare in total shock, like they can't believe what they're seeing. He makes sure every bite hits, then shoves his doubting men to the front. "Go on, dig in." One knight drags itself forward, then bites into food for the very first time, fork in hand, looking totally unsure. The taste slams into him like lightning, and his hand clenches with raw, stunned disbelief. The whole crew goes silent faces, flushing hard like they just got hit with the most unreal flavor of their lives. Seconds later, they rip into their food and chow down with loud, unstoppable energy. They practically pounce for seconds, and Yakido beams, then belt out thanks like it's the best night of their lives. In no time, every last bowl got scraped down to bone-dry emptiness, nothing left behind. The knights grinned and swore they'd come back swinging and spill every last detail to their comrades about the shop. Yakito beamed as he cleared the dishes, thrilled to see those hearty young eaters digging in. A weird electric chill hit Yakito out of nowhere, and he froze mid-task, completely baffled. A mysterious magical screen blasted into view, flashing the news that his gift had just leveled up. He devoured the details of his level 3 gift, soaking up every fresh, game-changing piece of info. He spotted the big serving size, and the cold soba had just hit the menu. But as he dug deeper into the details, his smile vanished and serious focus hit his face all at once. To unlock the next level, they needed a wild 100 customers. Panic slammed into him when he saw the number spike 10 times higher than the last requirement. But his despair snapped away in an instant, and a bright, confident grin burst across his face. He couldn't forget the insane reward waiting for him the moment he hit the next level. Soon, the menu was about to blow your mind with mouth-watering curry rice and an unbeatable set meal combo. He clenched his fist because he knew curry wasn't just loved everywhere it hit like raw power. Not even in another world could anyone deny that jaw-dropping, insanely delicious pull. While he worked, he couldn't stop smiling as memories of how curry kept him going as an artist flooded back. Daydreaming with his eyes locked on the future, he practically couldn't wait for his favorite meal to come back. All at once, the gentle whoosh of an automatic door shattered his peaceful daydream. Startled, he snapped his gaze up from his work, stunned to find a late-night visitor waiting there. He spun around and greeted the newcomer with a bright, professional smile right on the spot. But when he saw who stood in front of him, his words vanished straight into his throat. A young woman blazed in full-plate armor, her silhouette cutting through the doorway like a warning. She yanked off her helmet, and then her face crashed open, tears pouring down like they'd been holding back for hours. Stunned and on edge, Yakito leaned in and asked the customer, "Can I help you with anything?" His question blew the door off. Then she crumpled and started sobbing like she couldn't stop. She crumpled to her knees, drowning in heartbreaking, unstoppable grief. After a beat, she snapped her eyes upward, locking onto a shop sign like it held the answer. She kept blurting out apologies for wrecking the moment right at the entrance. Yakito tried to calm her down, but inside he was still totally stunned. He had no clue why this random stranger just suddenly broke down in tears. The knight seemed to lean in, and her face flickered with change as she got ready to finally speak. With shaking hands, she begged desperation in every word. If this place really was an Adai Sujisoba shop. Stunned that she actually said his name, Yakito snapped that, yes, she was right. A wave of pure relief crashed through her, and she grabbed her chest like it was the only thing holding her together. Then her smile vanished, and her face went ice cold as she lined up her next question. She leaned in and asked, "So did you finally get the newly unlocked Hayashi Tanuki Soba?" All armored up, Lateria clamps her hands together and blurts out straight out of desperation, "Do you guys serve Hayashi Tanuki Soba?" Yakido freezes when the knight's face goes dead serious, because she suddenly realizes the knight knows exactly what Sobo is. Lateria lunges forward and grabs his hands, begging with raw desperation to let her eat the Hayashi Tanuki Soba. He can't shake the feeling something's off, and he starts grilling his own thoughts because this woman and this whole situation scream suspicious. But when he locks eyes with that raw, desperate look, he snaps to it and grants her request. With a fresh, confident grin, he swings into action and declares he has to pick up her call for SOBA. Tears of gratitude gush down Lateria's cheeks as she thanks him over and over, like her heart can't stop. Yakito slips into the kitchen, his head still spinning from that weird customer's demands. He kicks off the grind, hoisting a strainer packed with just boiled noodles. The steaming soba gets yanked from the bubbling hot water, and just like that, it's cooked to perfection. He shoots the noodles under cold water, stopping them dead so they stay firm, chewy, and perfectly springy. Eyes locked in, he sizes up the pile of clean bowls, already gearing up to plate the next masterpiece. He gently slides the cold noodles from the strainer into a waiting serving bowl. A steaming ladle of cool, savory soba broth gets poured straight over the noodles. He chops up fresh green onions and gets the wakame seaweed ready, prepping every condiment like he means business. Then he whips around to a container stuffed with crispy tempura bits. He grabs a perforated spoon and digs up the crunchy topping for the next bite. A generous pile of tempura bits gets placed right on top of the noodles, like the final tasty piece of the puzzle. He brings out the finished dish, one flawless bowl of Hayashi Tanuki Soba. Yukito breaks into a warm smile, urging his grateful customer to slow down, breathe easy, and savor every moment. He watches her, wearing a calm, proud smile like his heart's already curious about what she'll do next. Right before the bowl, Lateria clasps her gloved hands together, praying like she's done it 1,000 times. Yakito clocks the gesture, and shock creeps across his face like it finally hit him. She lifts her bow and breaks into the old Japanese thank you before meals greeting right before she starts eating. Itadakimasu is a distinctly Japanese way to say thank you before you eat, an expression of gratitude that hits straight from the heart. One lone tear slips past her shut eye, packed with raw, crushing emotion. Yakito is frozen in pure disbelief, struggling to wrap his head around who this person could possibly be. The tale snaps into a flashback, and suddenly we're staring at a young Lateria Sereno right from France. Watching anime as a kid lit a fire in her that never went out. Japanese culture became her lifelong obsession. She haunted bookstores all across France, diving into those special sections reserved just for Japanese manga. After high school, she packed up and sprinted to Tokyo for art school, chasing her dream of becoming a manga artist. At university, she threw herself into her studies, sharpening her art skills day after day. She kicked back watching her favorite anime and stumbled straight into that wild, fan-loved iSky reincarnation craze. Curious as hell, she dove online, hunting down more stories just like this. Her relentless hunt finally led her straight to Japan's biggest web novel site. She couldn't believe a place like that even existed, and she kept reading until the late hours of the night. Before she even realized it, those stories had her totally, completely, absolutely hooked. Summer cicadas screamed outside her Tokyo window, filling the night with non-stop buzz. She even fell hard for Japanese food, especially Adai and Sujisoba, right by her university. A steaming bowl of soba gets shoved onto the table in front of her at the shop. The Hayashi Tanuki Soba was her go-to pure bliss on a scorching day, like the universe nailed the perfect meal for her. Those dashi-packed flavors hit like a revelation, totally unlike anything French cuisine has ever served up. Slurping that soba on a scorching summer day turned into one of my favorite memories ever. She slurps those noodles like every bite tastes like heaven, grinning with pure, unshakable bliss. That totally empty bowl just sits there like a silent trophy, proof of one amazing meal. She got totally knocked out by the sheer delicious shock of that cold soba. She showed up so often that the staff could recite her order from memory. In Tokyo, she shared her life with her adopted aunt and her Japanese husband. Her sweet uncle would haul her to the local tsujisoba spot anytime he could, just so they could chow down together. The whole family huddles at the counter while the shopkeeper slides their food onto the table. One steaming plate at a time, they were set for croquette soba washed down with cold mugs of beer. Her uncle digs into his meal with a wide, happy grin, savoring every bite like it's pure joy. He takes a huge, icy gulp of beer that feels like instant relief. With a deep, satisfied sigh, he leans in and declares that the combo is absolutely delicious. Latteria's aunt leans in and reminds her right there and then that she's still too young to touch beer. Latteria couldn't wait. Once she hit 20, she'd finally be allowed to join them. That cozy, warm, sober shop vibe hit her like a promise she'd never forget. She thought these bright, simple days would stretch on forever. But during her summer vacation in France, her airport shuttle got hijacked out of nowhere. That sweet, perfect memory snaps in half, and suddenly it's pure violence, screaming chaos, and everything goes wrong. A terrorist blasts into the bus with gunfire, and chaos explodes as everyone scrambles not to get hit. The gun's barrel is locked straight on her. Her entire life got snuffed out in a single heartbeat. Her eyes blow wide with pure final shock because death hits her like a sudden violent strike. The moment she opened her eyes in heaven, a god from some other world greeted her like she'd been summoned. The god sweeps in the late arriving Sereno, welcoming him into a world where swords swing and magic burns. The chapter title page kicks things off by introducing the reincarnator, Latteria Sereno. Even though she knew she hadn't died, the crushing sadness hit her like it was absolutely real. Worse than everything, she never even got the chance to tell her family goodbye. Then a fresh, electric idea started to light up in her mind. It felt exactly like her favorite anime until she realized she'd been reincarnated into a whole new world. She couldn't wait. She threw her hand up to become the hero who'd dive in and save this brand new world. And just like that, the gods handed her a gift that only she could wield. She was handed the legendary, heroic power of the Sword King. With purpose blazing in her chest, she took off to kickstart her epic new adventure. Still, the locals leaned in and swore the world was way calmer than she ever expected. She got the shocking news the Great War had ended ages ago. Even the terrifying demon lord was already knocked down, defeated, and hauled into captivity. She froze in shock. This calm, peaceful world didn't ask for any heroic gift at all. She figured dungeon exploring would be at least one wild ride, but the truth was brutal, watching her comrades get savagely beaten and shattered. She was always in agony, battered and bruised from every brutal fight. That food was downright miserable. She sobbed over bland bread and watery soup. The full moon poured a lonely glow over the town every night. In her tiny room, she thrashed in her sheets, desperate to find even a shred of comfort. But none would come. She chased her hero dream like in the anime, and now it haunts her as a painful memory. She ached so hard for her parents and for every last person she'd been forced to leave behind. She craved nothing more than tearing back to earth just to sink her teeth into her beloved soba. The urge to chow down on soba hit like a tidal wave, swallowing every other thought. So when she spotted Nidai and Tsujisoba standing guard by the castle wall, her breath caught and she just froze. She feared it was just a hallucination, her homesickness playing cruel tricks on her mind. But the shopkeeper looked Japanese, like he dropped straight out of our world, and I couldn't figure out how something like that even existed in a place like this. She even spotted earth-made cooking tools, like a real gas stove. Even with a million questions burning in her chest, she started by dropping to her knees and thanking the heavens first. No other words could have fit a bowl of soba better, she thought. She grabbed the chopsticks with that smooth, practiced snap, like she'd done it 1,000 times. She snapped those disposable chopsticks apart like it was pure skill. Nervousness crashed over her, and she couldn't ignore the fact that it had been 2 brutal, endless years. Her hands shook with pure anticipation as she leaned in for that first bite. She scooped up a tiny bundle of those glistening noodles from the bowl, With one single drop of broth landing, she lifted the noodles straight to her lips. The sober noodles gleamed under the shop lights, slick with hot broth and shining like they were made to be devoured. Latteria finally digs in and tears into that steaming, delicious noodle soup with her first satisfying slurp. That firm, chewy bite is a total universe away from the miserable heart attack grimness. After 2 brutal years, she finally savors the rich, steaming aroma of dashi. She bites into the noodles, and surprise delightful crispy tempura bits crunch in every mouthful. A sweet, satisfied smile blooms on her face as she savors that unreal, mind-blowing flavor. The flavor detonates like fireworks, blasting away 2 brutal years of suffering. A single tear of pure joy slips out as she leans in and whispers that it's absolutely delicious. Then she takes a bite of the chewy wakame and it hits the noodles like it was made for them. Then the sliced green onions hit sharp, crisp, and instantly refreshing. She slams back into that mouth-watering crunch of crispy tempura bits. She demolishes everything in sight. Can't stop for a second, snatching up every last bite like she's got to win. The bowl's empty and the meal's done. But that warm satisfaction still clings to him. Yakito asks if she liked it, and she suddenly blurts out a massive thank you that won't stop pouring out of her. Just as he starts to walk away, she suddenly clamps onto his arm with raw, urgent force. She yells for him to stop blasting the moment wide open and shocking Yakido and Chap too. She leans in and fires the question, "So are you a reincarnator or some stranger from another world?" She keeps pushing, then drills him with one sharp question, "Are you from Earth and from Japan?" Yakito panics, his secret exposed way too fast, and he can't stop wondering how they figured it out so easily. They shoved a secret into his hands only the Duke was allowed to know. He figures she has to be a dungeon explorer, but if she came at him with pure hostility, his gift would have already stepped in and shielded him. He stammers, basically begging to know how she could possibly know something like that. She flashes a sheepish grin and hurriedly apologizes because she scared him half to death. Then she drops a bombshell. She's not just someone new, she's a reincarnated stranger. Yakito is completely blown away. Could she really be just like him? He can't shake the memory of that last stranger, the kid from Kenya. Around here, even the Duke and Adamant are Caucasian, and the woman in front of him looks unmistakably Caucasian. She leans in and tells them, "Yeah, I look white, but I'm French, straight from the source." Her home was France, the kind of place that felt like it belonged to another world entirely. He remembers the Duke warning him that the final stranger had come all the way from Kenya. She spills how she spent her whole life dodging corrupt, exploitative nobles who never stop hunting her. She gets reborn in the cold north, right under a cruel, wicked lord who owns her fate. The very thought of that corruption sends rage roaring straight through the Duke's veins. Yakido leans in and tells her he understands every brutal thing she's been through, offering real sympathy for the hardship she's survived. It hits him, his situation is unbelievably lucky, and he can't believe it. She suddenly realizes she forgot to properly introduce herself to him. She steps in and flashes a grin, introducing herself as Latteria Sereno, while he stands there as Hatsushiro Yakiido. She snaps her gaze upward, stunned, and instantly wonders if she misheard his name. She tells me her aunt got hitched to a Japanese guy named Hatsushiro. She flashes a grin and tells everyone her adopted uncle's name is Hatsushiro Yukihiko. Yukito's eyes bulge with pure, earth-shaking disbelief. He clamps his hands on her shoulders, yanking the words out as he demands she repeat what she just said. He asks her straight up if her aunt's name just happens to be Amanda. Now it's Latteria's turn, and she's left totally, absolutely speechless. It hits him like a punch. Yeah, it's real, and his older brother's name is Yukihiko. He blasts out loud at the man she knows his only brother, and his whole world. She stutters out that his brother's married a French woman. Her name is Amanda. He flashes back to the wedding announcement, Amanda Montruel. Latteria confirms it. This was truly her aunt's maiden name. Yakito tilts his head to the sky, eyes wide as he wonders what kind of game that god is playing. While they're in Tokyo, they can't stop talking about the weird fact they somehow never crossed paths. Yakito leans in and tells you his brother is a shut-in, non-stop manga workaholic who never really comes up for air. She realizes the terrifying truth that he must have died before she ever did. She knew his brother painted for a living, and that he wasn't the only one in his family with a brother. Lateria's expression goes stone cold as a shocking truth finally slams into her mind. She shoots out and grabs his hands, swearing he's a god and claiming he's her favorite artist. She breaks down over how shattered she felt when his series abruptly cut off. She became the spark that sent her sprinting toward Japan, chasing her dreams in art. But her dream got snuffed out in an instant when the hijacking turned deadly and she didn't make it. The goddess handed her the Sword King's gift, one blazing blade meant to forge a hero, but she clenches her fist tight and declares, "I refuse to fight." Yukido rests a soft, reassuring hand on her shoulder. He leans in and tells her straight up that she's done amazing. Somehow she kept herself alive on her own. He finally gets the brutal truth of what she had to survive after being reincarnated. Her combat-focused gift turned into a curse, leaving her stranded and fighting just to stay alive. She blurts out that she's done forcing herself to go any further. She's sick of watching her friends get killed, and terror's crawling up her spine because she knows she might be next. She feels trapped by duty and has to fight, but Yakito sees straight through her fear and understands why she can't stand it. He catches his own past burnout staring back at him in the tired look on her face. But he's convinced that soba might be the key to saving her. He shoots her a reminder she chose art school to learn how to draw. He's adamant she can draw like a pro without any special gift at all. She insists you can't be trapped into surviving on talent alone. She fires back, swearing she could never possibly measure up to a gifted artist. Then, with a grin, he tells her, "You're working for me." You know she's obsessed with soba, especially that cold tanuki style. He tells her he has to hire someone to jump in and help run the shop. She's all about soba, she's ridiculously strong, and yeah, she's technically his niece. He's got a one-of-a-kind shot to blaze the trail for SOBA and make it a whole new thing in this world. This is her shot to finally hang up the adventure life and team up with him for good. She's left speechless, staring at him like, "Wait, you mean I can really work with you?" She's desperate not to waste this shot, too bad she's never done it before. He leans in and reassures her, "I've got this, I can teach you." Because he's used to managing people, he sheepishly confesses that he died on his very first day. She stares at him, and the terrifying weight of his life changing offers crashes in like a wave. He can't shake the feeling her serious face looks exactly like she's walking into a job interview. He throws in a fat salary plus 3 meals a day and even gives you a room upstairs. So what's it gonna be? He leaned in and asked if she'd team up with him. Her eyes light up with raw hope and overflowing gratitude. She dips into a deep bow, grabs the offer like it's fate, and thanks him over and over with zero hesitation. He shoots his hand out and welcomes her to the team with a formal no-nonsense bow. She tilts her head up at him, and those bright eyes flare with fresh, unstoppable purpose. His hand clamps onto hers, locking their bond with an armor-clad promise. And with the bell still ringing in her ears, Lateria kicks off her second day working at the shop. 2 brand-new customers rush in, and she greets them with a bright, joyful welcome. She greets everyone with a radiant smile, serving customers with effortless warmth. For now, her job is straightforward. She serves the customers and takes care of every payment. Yakito leans in, watches her work closely, and a knowing grin sparks across his face. Lateria grins and takes an order from a band of adventurers who can't help but blush under her cheerful gaze. She slides a steaming bowl of soba to another table full of young men totally smitten. Yakito clocks the scene, every single customer is a guy, and he can't ignore Lateria's absurdly effective power. He grins, knowing all these customers could be exactly what he needs to level up. A blinding light engulfs him, his gift just leveled up, and suddenly curry rice snaps onto the menu. Inside the castle, 2 nobles lean in and whisper about a brand new noodle shop that's just popped up by the wall. They clock another Night Lord Lyko and light up as they cheer him on, urging him to join their ranks. Lyko snaps his hand up and bluntly shuts it down. He's got zero interest in that. After the place shuts down, Lateria freezes in awe as a hot steaming plate of curry rice lands in front of her. Tears of pure, unfiltered joy suddenly burst free and race down her face. A shocked Yakito leans in and demands, "Why are you crying?" as she breaks down, sobbing that her joy is so deep it feels unreal. Yukito smirks, remembering it's been 2 brutal years since she last tasted that perfect bowl of white rice. He spills the real secret behind soba shop curry. It's brewed with a dashi-based base. Lateria beams, sure that this fresh menu is about to blow the shop's popularity way out of the water. Yakito nodded hard, eyes blazing with his dream to turn that shop into the neighborhood's absolute favorite. The story whips straight to the grand office of the Alvanite captain. Captain Adamant tells Sent he's about to be reassigned because he's on guard duty for the stranger, Yakido. Sin is completely stunned by the command. Blurted out in disbelief, me. Duke Alvil sits perfectly still, eyes locked on the scene as a storm of seriousness plays across his face. Sent snaps into panic, totally thrown off by this degrading mission that makes no sense. Captain Adamant studies his subordinates' reactions with a knowing, razor-sharp look. Sent seethes at his own idle time, craving a real mission to finally sink his teeth into. His subordinates push back, yelling that a job this small is way below him. He sits there, heart heavy, realizing he's officially run out of anything left to do. Saint Lyco became a legend, clawing his way from the common streets up to the ranks of celebrated knights. Born into a struggling farming family, he unleashed his rare combat gift and clawed his way into the soldiers' ranks. On patrol, he wiped out a huge crew of bandits all by himself. Because of his heroics, he was awarded a noble title, something no one in his family had ever seen before. He turned into the spark that lit up every soldier who'd been born into the ordinary life. Even the knights from great noble families held him in deep respect. His promotion brought bigger pay, and suddenly those dull little chores disappeared for good. With every fight cleared, nothing was left to test him so pure. Bone-deep boredom washed over him. He couldn't help but yawn from pure boredom, while that tiny little dog stared at him like it was dying to know what was going on. It felt like his true purpose was slipping right through his fingers. Like deep down, he was still nothing more than a farmer at heart. The silence of no work gnawed at him like a nightmare. He craved a real, meaningful job with everything he had. Another knight bursts in and shouts that Captain Adamant has summoned him. Seth can't stop wondering why the captain is calling him out personally. He reaches the door and instantly panics. What if everyone caught his recent dissatisfaction? Inside, Captain Adam's voice barks an order, "Step in." Sent bursts into the office, bows low, and announces himself like he owns the room. His eyes shoot wide open, and pure shock slams into him all at once. He's completely stunned because it's not just the captain here. It's Duke High Son Alval himself. Overwhelmed to the bone, he drops to one knee on the spot, right in front of his lord. The Duke tells him to relax, but a heavy unease crawls in, like Sent can't stand the thought of being in the Duke's presence. Adam nods along, saying it looks like the Duke's really started to take a shine to him. Sen can only scrape out a shaky "yes, sir," like the words get stuck in his throat. The Duke waves him over to sit, but Sent refuses. He digs his heels in and keeps standing. The Duke demands attention, then lays it out fast. They've got a messy, complicated situation they need to talk about. Sent nervously drops into his seat, spine locked rigid like a drawn bow. The Duke rushes in with a heartfelt apology, swearing he summoned him without warning and making it right. Sint's eyes go wide in pure horror as he blurts at the Duke, begging him no, screaming at him not to bow his head at all. Adamant leans in and tells Sint in a grave, hushed voice that the next part is top secret. The Duke leans in and grills Sint, demanding to know if he still remembers the man he just pulled under his protection. Sink stares into that weird little diner the owner conjured with his strange power. He straight up admits he finally gets why the Duke would go to war to protect some ordinary commoner. He finally blurts out to his lord that he's never once even stepped foot inside the shop. The Duke can't believe his ears. He blurts out, demanding to know if you've truly never once tasted that mouth-watering food. Sin tells them he always grabs his meals at the barracks mess hall, like clockwork, every single time. The Duke's massive frame shook as he muttered under his breath, stunned by the wild twist of events unfolding. Sent's nerves explode as he blurts out, "Was it wrong I didn't go?" The Duke dismisses it with a sharp wave, then declares that the real game starts right now. He tears the truth wide open. Yakido's no local at all, just a brand new stranger dropped into their world. A jolt shoots up his feet. He can't believe it, and he blurts out, "Waited, is that really true?" He knows the rare strangers are never just random people. They're the world changers who shove new ideas into reality. He finally gets it. This is the Duke's job. Shielding someone this precious is his duty, no matter what. But he can't wrap his head around it. Why in the world is this secret landing on him, of all people? Adamant yells his name and braces to lay down his official orders. He gives a formal order to his agents, guard Yakido Hatsushiro the stranger at the center of this mission. A person's face twists into a silent scream, Pure disbelief, total confusion, like their world just broke. The story snaps onto the rooftops of Alval, where Sint stews over his brand new mission. He lets out a pained groan, and the assignment's weight crushes down on his shoulders. He shows up at the shop, already feeling that just standing outside and doing nothing is a waste. He leans in, staring at the food model like it's a crime scene, and the moment he spots noodles and soup, pure weirdness hits him like a punch. He still remembers the Duke's near-reverent look when he spoke about the food. The Duke didn't just compliment the soba, he crowned it a masterpiece that made the castles look downright embarrassed. Sent's never tasted anything like this before, so he can't help wondering what if it's even better than he can imagine. A bright, cheerful voice suddenly yells his name, and he jolts so hard it feels like the moment snapped him in half. It's Ormond, his fellow knight, grilling him, "So you here to chow down on soba?" Seth can't stop thinking about how Ormond used to act way more casual back when he hadn't been promoted yet. He grimaces inwardly at the fancy Sama honorific they've stuck to his name. Ormond pats his stomach, groans that he's starving, and declares he's heading in first. He straightened his back, and determination hardened like steel as he made his mind up to step in. He shoots back that he's going too, marching straight toward the glass doors with zero hesitation. Inside, Lateria lights up the moment Ormond steps in, practically begging him to place his order. He just froze in shock. Seeing a woman at work, he couldn't stop wondering who she really was. He thought Yakito, the owner, was running the whole shop by himself. He went straight up to Latisharia and demanded, "So who are you?" telling her exactly what he'd heard. She flashes a grin and introduces herself as the new employee, while the manager is stuck in the kitchen. She offers to call the manager for him, but Sint says, "I'm good," and shuts it down. She flashes a warm smile and tells him to grab any open seat he wants. Sint slides into the counter seat, stiff as a statue, eyes scanning everything like he's hunting for answers. He leans over the table, eyes scanning every weird condiment, and spots a box packed with wooden sticks. His razor-sharp gaze keeps darting around the shop's interior like he's hunting for something. He's totally stunned to find a real first-class restaurant-style menu laid out in front of him. He tiptoes forward, stretches out a trembling hand, and taps the laminated surface. He jerks back, shocked by how unfamiliar and how hard and smooth that texture feels. He lifts it high, staring in awe at that glossy, unbreakably firm paper, like it's something pulled straight out of another world. Those pictures are so real, you'd swear the real food jumped right onto the page. A tiny, nearly invisible smile of pure admiration flickers across his lips. His eyes snap wide with pure disbelief as the numbers hit 340 call. He stared at the menu and disbelief hit him so hard his face tightened at those prices. Can you believe this mystery guy is still somehow managing to stay in business? His eyes whip over the list, then stop dead on a weird new dish curry rice. He turned down the cold soba on the spot because the idea of chilled food just didn't sit right with him. His eyes stayed locked on the menu, hunting like a starving detective for anything he could recognize. Then, boom, a name jumped out at him, Harinso Soba. His eyes snapped wide with shock the moment he recognized it, Savoy. He couldn't believe it right here in this place. He was actually able to bite into a vegetable from the far north. His thoughts ripped back to his home village of Hallberg. A mighty, bittersweet wave of nostalgia crashed over the hard, unforgiving night. He remembered his mother slamming those tough, bitter greens onto the family table like it was the only fight that mattered. His grandparents would grin every time, saying it was a grown-up's flavor. As a kid, he despised that vegetable didn't care a bit that it was packed with nutrients. His parents would beg him to take a bite, and he'd shut them down every single time. And when he looked back, the warmth of those family meals hit him hard. The laughter, the comfort, everything. Lateria, all smiles, came right up to him and asked, "So you ready to order?" She pressed this mysterious pin, and it let out a sound he'd never heard in his life. With a radiant grin, she leaned in and asked what he wanted to order. He realized her pen left no ink behind just another wild earth-made mystery. She lit up with a big grin, nodded at his order, and made sure he knew she was on board. Lateria snapped her head around and barked the order for one Harinso Soba to the manager. Sint froze. He didn't even clock the manager was standing there. He doubled down on his mission to guard the shop, knowing the Umbu were right there, watching his every move. He whipped his head around and realized the shop was packed. Almost every single customer in there was a man. He paused and soaked in the diner's clean, peaceful hush. He shut his eyes tight, savoring that soft, unfamiliar music like it was finally made for him. Lateria hauled over the shop's condiments and told everyone they were free with a grin. He cradled a glass of chilled barley tea, one rare, luxurious sip that felt almost unbelievable. He snapped to attention when he heard Lateria's voice again. She came back with his food in hand. She slid the tray right in front of him, then served up his harinso soba like it was fate. He gaped at the gorgeous pile of noodles, steaming broth, and colorful toppings. The dish's edge stirred a heavy, deep emotion straight in his chest. The broth hit my eyes like a gorgeous tea color, but it looked crystal clear at the same time. Those grey noodles sat there, all cozy and tempting, soaking up the steam from that mouth-watering soup. Everything above it gleamed with Savoy, crowned in paper-thin toppings, all of it swirling in the steam like it was alive. He inhaled that wild, incredible aroma, and a sharp plea slipped out of his lips. He clung to his superior's praise, convinced this was about to taste absolutely incredible. You spot no fork or spoon anywhere, and your gut twists. Did they just forget to put them out? Then he spotted another customer, effortlessly waving two bizarre wind sticks like they were second nature. That young man looked totally at ease, grinning like the weird utensils were made just for him, so was left completely stunned by this wild new four-method way of eating. The other customer tore into his noodles, slurping them down like he couldn't get enough. Scent just stared as his mind whirred, "Wait, you're telling me this?" He decided that if this was the rule, then he'd follow it, no questions asked. He clumsily wrestled with the chopsticks, fumbling and struggling just to get a solid grip. Deciding to dig in first, he gripped the heavy bowl and lifted it with careful hands. He took a slow, careful sip of the warm, aromatic broth, like he was savoring every single second. His sip was so gentle that it echoed like the only sound in the whole room. His eyes fluttered shut with pure bliss, and that flavor rolled over his tongue, soft, smooth, and dangerously delicious. Next, he snapped his focus to the noodles and somehow lifted a tight little bundle. He shoved the noodles into his mouth and slurped them down like he couldn't wait another second. That first taste hit like a sunrise in his chest, bursting him with pure pastoral joy. He exhaled a quiet little sigh, and that warm dish wrapped him up like a comforting blanket. A knowing smirk snapped onto his face, and the truth suddenly clicked in. Now he finally understood why the Duke and the Captain were completely spellbound. With a fierce, unshakable stare, he geared up for the most important moment of his life. Now it was time for the real showdown. The Savoy. 15 brutal years had dragged by since he vanished from his home. Savoy hit him like a long-lost dream, his first taste in over a decade. He scooped up a bite of the cooked green with his chopsticks. He stared at the dark color, his mind racing. Was it some strange new variety? He tasted the piece of Savoy, and his face went stone serious. The flavor slammed into him like a punch to the gut. He chewed slow, and when it hit crisp crunch with a tender bite that caught him off guard. He swallowed hard, tipped his head back, and savored that complex aftertaste like it was a victory. The Savoy hit soft at first, then its bold flavor burst through and turned everything into pure, mouth-watering richness. He shut his eyes, and suddenly the truth hit him like a tidal wave. Now he finally got it. He wasn't chewing on vegetables at all. He was savoring home itself. A soft, knowing breath slipped out, and a gentle smile bloomed across his face. He remembered his brothers raging at each other, blasting complaints about being forced to eat Savoy. So delicious, he thought, and a single tear slid down his cheek like it couldn't hold back. He fought to smile through the tears, finally seeing that he'd never really hated it at all. One bite of the soba hit my senses, and suddenly my head filled with warm, unforgettable family memories. Guilt punched him in the chest. 2 whole years had passed since he last wrote home. He decided to send a letter right away, just to make sure they knew he was okay. He couldn't stop thinking it. Maybe he needed to ditch everything, take a massive vacation, and finally go see them. Another customer spotted the stoic knight choking back tears as he ate, and it instantly hit like a punch. She couldn't stop wondering, was that food so insanely good it broke him into tears? Elf Tessarius flashed a knowing smile like she'd felt that exact ache 1,000 times before. The tale snaps back to last week's events, like it's replaying the whole thing in your head. Tessera's voice slices through the air as she declares, "I'm finally here." She plants herself before the wild, impossible architecture of the Adai Suja Soba shop. Her fists clench with pure excitement as she marches toward the stranger's diner to study it. She snaps her mouth shut on instinct, remembering researchers aren't allowed to make contact. The kingdom finally got a report, and it meant a first stranger in 30 long years had shown up. Tess Arya was the only researcher from the capital picked for the assignment. Marquis Cantes had leaned in and warned her this investigation had to stay locked down tight, with not a soul the wiser. She swore she'd honor her duty and dig into the truth behind that stranger's gift. Huddled behind the corner, she peeked out and froze at what she saw. A pack of rough-looking men crashed into the diner, turning the whole place into chaos. The door slid open by itself, and she swore it was pure magic. She caught the thugs snapping and demanding the curry recipe right there in front of her. Manager Yakito spoke in a calm voice, but he made it crystal clear the recipe was impossible to give them. Tessaria's chest tightened as she realized this polite guy had to be the stranger. Rage flared in the men's eyes as they snapped that they'd try to monopolize his curry. They shoved threats in his face and promised he'd regret every word when he refused. Suddenly, Yukito lunged and yanked Letiria behind him, dragging her out of danger. The other customers sucked in a breath, stunned as everything snapped into chaos. With a smooth, lightning-fast twist, Yakido launched one thug flying over his shoulder. Tessarius gaped in shock, realizing just how freakishly strong he truly was. Yakito and Lateria stand there as the Marquis's men get dragged out with zero manners, thrown out like trash. Those two thugs get blasted airborne, crashing down in a brutal, tangled heap that hurts to even watch. Mark hustled his way out of the shop, storms raging in his chest as he clutched a stolen plate of curry. He smirks like, if I study it hard enough, I can recreate this dish. A sudden burst of light erupts, and the curry vanishes from his hands like it never existed. Tessaria's jaw drops as the shop's magic blasts troublemakers out and kicks the food right out too. Academic excitement hit her like lightning, and she rubbed her hands together, buzzing with anticipation. She realizes she has to dig into this amazing place, like a real customer who knows exactly what she's doing. Lateria flashes a radiant, welcoming smile at the new elven customer. She flashes a warm, polite smile and tells Tess Arya to grab any seat that's empty and hers for the choosing. Now settled in her seat, Tessaria starts digging into the strange diner with razor-sharp, careful eyes. She's blown away by how spotless and perfectly organized everything is. Her eyes snap wide as she flips open the glossy, laminated menu booklet, studying every shine like it's about to explode into something amazing. She's left totally speechless, staring at the insane mountain of menu options. Even though she's dying to taste that curry, she decides to play it smart and starts with a basic noodle dish. A steaming, sweet-smelling bowl of cake soba gets slid right in front of her. She takes her very first slurp of those noodles, and her whole world instantly turns into something new and wildly exciting. Her face suddenly lights up with wide-eyed shock and pure, non-stop delight. That deep, mind-blowing flavor hits her senses and steals her breath. Nothing she's ever tasted comes close. A tear of pure joy slips down her cheek as she whispers, "That's so delicious." She realizes this humble dish hits harder than any royal feast ever could. That otherworldly food hit her like a wave. Its incredible, delicious taste overwhelmed her completely. Her rare, perfect memory kicks in, zeroing in on the perfect dish and locking on like a target. She lets out a triumphant grin to herself. She's finally got the cake soba memorized. She stares at her gift in awe, an incredibly rare power among elves, and it has nothing to do with magic. Meet Tessaria, an Ibaraki forest researcher, and her story is about to explode. Her home sprawls deep in the eastern reaches of the Cathedral Kingdom, a massive woodland wrapped in wild mystery. Everyone says elves keep to themselves, but that couldn't be farther from the truth, especially for her. When she was just a kid, she bombarded a traveling merchant with non-stop questions, begging to know every book he had. He finally confirmed that beyond that world, thousands of people were waiting, and the gifts were nothing short of incredible. The merchant couldn't believe it, an elf was right there, staring with wild curiosity, and it felt totally unheard of. She never once felt trapped inside those forest lines. Lying in bed, she kept reading, and she knew her gift wasn't like anyone else's. Her dream was simple and terrifyingly ambitious, to study everything and record every single gift in existence flawlessly. Chasing that dream, she ripped herself out of her home and plunged straight into the life of an adventurer. She dove headfirst into deadly dungeons, hunting experience and fighting tooth and nail to prove she wasn't just talk. She introduced herself as Tessaria, an elf who could split the air with a bow and swing a short sword like it was nothing. The guildmaster vouched for her, pitching her to the famous Marquis Countess to join their big expedition. She couldn't contain her excitement at the chance to team up with a top gift researcher. This was her shot to finally get noticed and push her life's work into the spotlight. On the expedition, their party got hit with a brutal ambush. An enormous giant serpent slammed into them like a nightmare. Mark was already reeling when the beast's venomous fangs sank in, and he crumpled to the ground in agony. The party's healer couldn't do a thing against that brutal poison. It hit like lightning. Then Tessaria blurted out of nowhere that she had the exact antidote for that poison. She shot a life-saving potion into the unconscious Marquis, fast enough to keep him alive. After she saved his life, she stayed right by the party while he slowly fought his way back to strength. A grateful Cantor gets a reward anything she wants. Just name it. With shaky courage, she finally admitted her deepest wish, studying gifts. So she landed a coveted spot at the prestigious Royal Gift Research Institute. Her next huge dream: to track down that legendary gift from a mysterious stranger and study it herself. One day, a colleague stormed into the library like they were carrying a bombshell. After 30 years of silence, a stranger finally got found in Alval, like the past just walked back in. Arya felt it in her bones. This was her moment, and the odds were finally in her favor. Back in the present, Yakido and Lateria throw down a victory celebration, grinning after yet another wild, successful day. Yakito freezes mid-step as a familiar surge of power from his gift rips through him. He grins at an excited Lateria and blurts that his gift just hit a whole new level. He blushes hard, replaying the new menu items in his head like they're calling his name. The next morning breaks in, bright and crystal clear, over the old castle wall. A bright-eyed Tessario shows up, grinning. He's been eating at that shop every single day since he first found it. Luteria beams at the elf, smiling warmly as she thanks her for every bit of loyalty that brought her back. Arya can't stop thinking about how the shop's sweet smells and warm smiles feel downright irresistible. She studies the menu like it's a battlefield, then locks in her choice for a daily breakfast. Her gaze snaps to a fresh, totally unknown object, tempura soba. Shock slams into her as her analytical brain immediately scrambles to dissect every detail of this brand new dish. Lateria catches the truth with a knowing smirk, then sets down the water like she already expected this. She beams and swears that tempura soba is officially the new menu item. Over the moon with the news, Tessaria rushes to place her soba order right away. Lateria passes the command to Yakito, and he instantly gets to work, prepping everything without wasting a second. The moment she hears about tempura soba, scholarly curiosity ignites so hard it feels like it's burning through her veins. She can't stop imagining the taste and the texture, and the excitement keeps exploding in her chest. She has to chug a huge gulp of water just to steady herself and stop the panic from swallowing her whole. She sucks in a deep breath, forcing herself to calm the wild, racing joy pounding in her chest. Her head snaps toward the kitchen as a sudden sound bursts through the room. She watches Yakito lean in, working with razor focus over a pan bubbling with scalding hot oil. Her cheeks go red as she finally clocks the exact cooking method he's using. She slips away from the counter in a flash, and her mind whirls non-stop with everything she just learned. She hustles to the back and blurts that she has to use the washroom, no time to waste. She leans into the kitchen doorway and watches Yakido sizzle the tempura ingredients with total skill. Her sharp gaze locks onto the exact cooking technique he's using, like she can see every move. She slips into the washroom, and her mind starts racing over what that means for the food. She instantly nails it. This is deep frying, swimming in plenty of hot oil. She knows cooking oil costs an arm and a leg, and every drop is precious. Those frying fats are dirt cheap, but man, the smell is so awful it practically attacks your nose. She wrinkles her nose, instantly dragging herself back to that nasty, greasy smell of the local fried food. And somehow this shop doesn't stink at all, like it's powered by ingredients from another world. She once bit into a fried dish at a royal banquet, and let's just say it was absolutely awful. But she's got total faith that Yukito of all chefs will cook up pure perfection. She dives back into her seat, and pure excitement spikes to full-on fever levels. Lateria bursts back in with a huge grin, handing her a brand-new finished dish. Lateria raises the tempura soba to the table and announces it as she slams the tray down in front of her. Tessaria freezes in sheer wonder at the breathtaking dish, and for a heartbeat, she can't find a single word. A glorious golden disc rests on top of the noodles, and the smell hits like a heavenly knockout. She pauses, stares in awe, and drinks in how gorgeous that meal's laid out. She snatches up her chopsticks and dives in, ready to taste this brand new culinary masterpiece. The tempura hits way firmer and more filling than she ever expected at first. She spots that perfect sweet, non-spicy punch of picorous onions right in the batter. She also spots the tiny red bodies of the local freshwater pro ants. They get mixed into a batter, then slammed into scorching oil until they come out sizzling and golden. Even though she normally goes straight for the soup, she can't wait a second longer. She takes one massive, satisfying bite of that crispy, golden tempura, so crunchy it practically crackles. Tesseria's eyes blow wide with pure, jaw-dropping shock. She raises a crispy piece of tempura, then chomps down on the first bite like she's not sure she's ready for what comes next. That texture is straight-up addictive, like biting into a whole wheat cookie and getting hooked instantly. She bites into the picorous onions and instantly realizes they're sweet, way sweeter than anything else she's ever had. A sudden burst of stunning, intricate textures storms into our minds, like pure eye candy exploding in the dark. Springy prawns paired with that light, non-greasy oil is a match made in heaven. That soup wipes her palate clean, and the tempura, now totally soaked, hits even more heavenly than before. She decides to add shikimi, convinced he'll be the perfect match the moment they click. The moment the flavor hits, she loses herself moaning, wide-eyed, because it's insanely delicious. Her chopsticks clack against the bottom of a bowl, so empty it might as well be imaginary. With that bite still burning in her soul, she's sure she'll never forget this unbelievable taste. But as she lingers in that sweet afterglow, a brand new thought hits her like a jolt. She can't stop thinking, what if she takes a bite of tempura soba with curry rice and lets the delicious chaos happen? She's already stuffed, but the temptation is so mouth-watering she can't help herself. She shouts for another plate of tempura soba, then adds curry rice on the side like it's a mission. Latteria shoots the extra order straight to the kitchen manager. Tess Aria can't help but grin. She's already downed sujisoba for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. She decides she'll hit the road at night because even the smartest grind still needs fuel. The shop's packed and buzzing as Latteria whips through a long line of customers, taking orders like a storm. In the kitchen, Yakido grinds away non-stop, whipping up dish after dish with relentless focus. Latteria barks out another order for a wakame curry set. Yakito snaps the order into place, and you can feel the non-stop rush squeezing the life out of him. Latteria can't shake the feeling that even though she's smiling, they're about to hit the wall. She knows it's just a countdown now before they'll come screaming for help again. A hidden notification blasts across the screen, spilling the exact rewards he just earned from that level up. In his room, Yakito grins as he realizes his gift has just leveled up. His eyes shoot wide when he spots the brand new menu item beer. He still remembers that fake Bashi branch where they serve beer. But here's the catch. Something's gone wrong. A few days earlier, he went on a mission to dig up this world's local alcohol and figure out what it was all about. He and Latteria take a seat at an outdoor table in a nearby tavern. The server shoves a huge, rough wooden mug of ale right into their hands. Yakido can't wait. He raises the mug and takes a quick taste. He swallows a long, hopeful gulp, and Latteria can't look away. He plops onto the table right away, groaning like it's the worst thing ever. Latteria leans in and says the local ale is warm, sour, and downright filthy. She says the alcohol in this world is way behind Earth's, like it never even had a chance to catch up. She drops the bombshell that the Weinheim Empire controls lager with a full-on monopoly. Yukito's jaw drops when he learns that distilled spirits like whiskey are supposed to not exist at all. The dwarves whip up a fire-breathing wine so potent it could scorch your soul, though to them, it's basically just fortified ale. Yakido snaps to it. This world's brewing skills are miles behind his own. A lightning-fast memory of Latteria's life in Japan crashes through her mind. She finally confesses she's had one craving for years. She wants to try beer someday. Yakito panics because he thinks serving beer means they'll have to hire fresh staff right away. So go on, tell me your jokes, like it'd be a miracle if any other stranger showed up. Yakido knows he has to hire a local, but he can't stop wondering who's the right person for the job. He decides he'll track Latteria down the very next day and demand recommendations. A happy customer shoots Latteria a grateful smile, thanks them for the delicious meal, and heads out satisfied. From the kitchen, Yukido shouts, calling out to Latteria. He watches the afternoon chaos finally fade away. He glances at the clock and realizes night has already devoured the hours. He orders Lateria to grab her break, then stays planted up front to keep watch. Lateria tilts her head, wondering what secret staff meal the manager cooked up for today. Her cheeks flush bright as pure. No holds-barred anticipation takes over. Yukito slams a huge, steaming bowl of cake iageddon right into her hands. She gasps, totally blown away, because it looks so insanely delicious. Before she takes a bite, she clasps her hands in a quick prayer of thanks. She hoists the huge, brutal bolter onto her shoulders like it weighs nothing. The freshly fried tempura pops and crackles like it's begging you to take a bite. She snaps her chopsticks forward and takes the very first flawless bite like it's destiny. Her cheeks puff up as she stuffs her mouth with delicious food. She shuts her eyes tight, grinning in pure bliss as she takes that massive mouthful. A mouth-watering vision crashes into her mind, oil sizzling, onions snapping, shrimp dancing, and rich sauce flooding everything. She swears it's a real orchestra for her taste buds, hitting every note perfectly. She takes one bite and just beams. This meal is pure luxury, and she's absolutely thrilled. But then, bam, she jolts to the truth. This ride isn't done yet. She takes a bite of the rice and her eyes widen its silky texture, and faint sweetness hit her like a tiny perfect surprise. Crispy tempura and sticky sweet rice swirl together in perfect harmony, like they were made for each other. She digs into the rice like it's pure happiness, her face lighting up with joy. A tight close-up zooms in as the fluffy rice faces off with crispy tempura. These two components lock together and unleash the most perfect flavor harmony. A lightning bolt idea suddenly sparks in her mind, bright as the sun. She snaps to it in shock somehow. She's already demolished every single piece of tempura. Her gaze snaps to the big pot of dashi simmering just beside her. A wicked little smile dances on her lips as she grabs the ladle. Yukito pops in and reveals the shop's secret, how to pour hot broth over the rice. She leans in and takes one long, satisfying slurp of the dashi chizuki. Hot, she squeals, stunned by how scorching that broth is. Her surprise snaps into a huge, deeply satisfied grin. She devours what's left and declares with total conviction that this is the best thing she's ever tasted. That crispy tempura goodness has soaked into thick, savory dashi, like pure comfort. She grabs the last drop straight from the bowl and drinks it slow, like every single drop is her prize. Cherry blossoms flood her thoughts, and in that blooming beauty she tastes perfection. She's blown away by how flawlessly the dish hits that perfect three-way harmony. She lets out one last satisfied sigh and finishes every bite of her meal. She can't believe she's finally tasting something this amazing after a lifetime of this world's bland, flavor-dead food. She keeps replaying that bleak, flavorless meal from her adventurer days, like it still haunts her. She drops her head and bows to Yukito, breathless as she calls him her lifesaver. It hits her like a punch. Yukito's request to find a new employee all over again. He needs a person who can juggle the kitchen and the front. No excuses. She realizes most of the people she knows are right there with her other dungeon explorers. Same dangerous obsession. She finally admits it to herself. She doesn't have many friends left in this world. She recalls how every explorer swears that, in the depths of a dungeon, survival means simple cooking and nothing fancy. She realizes that being a killer cook doesn't automatically mean you'll jump into danger like an adventurer. A sudden memory hits her. She's still staring at a guild staffer sliding a steaming bowl of soup into her hands. He told her his family owned a diner, so the food hit the spot every time. She jolts back. He's not just a cook, he's insanely talented, the kind of chef everyone remembers. His name was Chap, a young guy with killer prosthetic legs that made him impossible to miss. In a bare, hollow room, Chap slams his door shut so hard it rattles the silence. He drops onto his bed with a crushing, tired sigh. He knows he's got to score a job fast and start stacking money again, right away. I'm Chap, once a guild porter. Now I'm sitting there unemployed, like the job just vanished overnight. During a dungeon crawl, one rookie's trap mistake took my legs, both of them. Sometimes the guild staff dives into the dungeon on their own. No backup, no safety net. The elite dungeon investigation division is packed with battle-tested veterans. I was one of them, hand-picked, because my gift was worth more than gold. I can stash insane amounts of stuff, and that power is honestly one of my most prized treasures. The job was a death trap, and the money was never promised. I was really relieved because I had to hustle and save every last coin for my dream. I came into the world as the eldest son of a tiny town diner owner. I grew up side by side with my little brother, and life never slowed down for a second. My grandfather ran a tight kitchen, stern eyes, deadly skills on the stove. That diner was famous for one reason: my family's cooking talents hit like pure magic. My dad's gift made his cooking speed skyrocket, and my grandpa could twist salt into any seasoning he wanted. But I was born with none of that power. And then it hit me. My younger brother inherited the family's cooking magic, straight up. I still loved cooking, so I practically dove into the kitchen and jumped in to help right away. I trusted my own cooking skills so hard, even without some special gift. When my family saw how hard I worked, they just assumed I'd end up taking over the restaurant. I bolted from home the second I turned 15. I looked at my brother and knew he was the better heir, so I vanished, leaving only a note behind. I'm obsessed with cooking, but I couldn't keep leaning on my family's kindness forever. I snapped and saved up my own cash, then opened my very own restaurant. I bolted straight for the nearest big city, Alval. I headed straight to the Dungeon Explorers Guild. Thanks to my gift, I got hired on the spot as a porter. It was a risky grind, but it helped him claw back money he couldn't afford to lose. I decided I'd walk away the second my startup fund hits the number I need. Even in the dungeons, I couldn't stop myself. I found pure joy in cooking. I'd fire up some hot food for my buddies right by the campfire, ready to keep everyone going. They all shot me grateful smiles, saying they felt lucky as hell I was with them. Their praise for my cooking hit me like fireworks, and I blushed straight from sheer joy. I mastered the art of turning tasteless rations into pure flavor, and everyone in the crew knew my skill. But with this body, I can't risk stepping into those dangerous dungeons anymore. My shop money is totally gone, and I've got to land a job fast before I'm out of options. An old stranger once leaned in and told me, "Money slips through your fingers, but you can always chase it back and earn it again." I'm still not done chasing my dream. I'm opening that shop, no matter what. I can't stop thinking, could I actually use my gift to land a job with the Merchants Association? Or maybe I could land a job in a kitchen, sure. I'd have to start at the very bottom. I'm sprawled in bed when this soft knock crawls through the room. A voice from the hallway cuts in. "I've got a visitor for you." I jolt upright, heart hammering someone's here for me. I swing the door wide and there's Latteria, beaming at me like she's been waiting for me all day. My chest rockets with excitement. Latteria, the beautiful one, is finally here to see me. My tongue turns to mush. I can only stammer her name, totally stunned that she's actually standing right here. Why the heck is that legendary Latteria showing up here? And why does every place in my room end up feeling like she's everywhere? Panic slams into me when I realize this place is a dorm for single men. No way she's doing this unless she comes from a noble family. She's got the kind of nerve only highborn people dare to have. And get this, she's none other than the legendary Sword King herself. He can't stop remembering how people swear she's the one who wields the legendary Sword King's gift. Her name echoes way past Alval, right into the royal capital, where everyone still knows it. We charged into dungeons together a few times, but every time I still couldn't even come close to her. Did she really show up because she was worried about my legs? Nah, that explanation doesn't hold. Latteria softly calls my name, Chapsan, and it hits like a whisper in the dark. She leans in and tells me she's heard from other explorers that I got my legs ripped away in an accident. She asked, "Are you okay?" And I told her, "Yeah, magic sealed my wounds and now I'm walking around with prosthetics." I crack a joke like, "Well, at least my wallet's finally bone dry now." The punchline lands, then just drops into silence, totally dead. My face is on fire. I just wanted to make her laugh, and somehow I still managed to mess it all up. Latteria stares at me with a death-serious expression. She jumps in out of nowhere, then shoots you a quick apology for showing up that sudden. I shoot back fast that it's truly an honor for her to come see me. My formal thanks keep flustering me. She leans in and tells me she's got something burning to ask. She asked if I'd hung up my gear with the guild, and I told her the truth, I can't take that job anymore. She grilled me about my daily life, sure. I can zip around town, but dungeons, those things are way beyond me. I joke that at least I don't have to worry about athlete's foot anymore. She grins and nods like, "Yeah. In that dungeon, your feet are guaranteed to get sweaty." After what felt like forever, I finally burst out with a real, honest-to-goodness laugh. I scratched my head, feeling kind of awkward as hell. "All right, then go on. Ask me if I finally landed a new job yet." I shoot a glance downward, and I can't even pretend anymore I admit it. I haven't. Relief floods her face the moment she blurts out that she made it just in time. I can't believe how happy she looks. Why is she acting like this? She suddenly yanks my shoulders, and her eyes burn with pure intensity. Chapson, she blurts it out, and I whip around. What's wrong? I ask. She asked if I'm still chasing my dream of opening my own restaurant, and I'm totally stunned, she remembers. She remembers the time I taught her to cook in that dungeon, and how my food hit so good it practically rewrote her whole life. I still remember telling her I'd train someday at a real diner, the kind that actually feels legendary. Because I'm out here hunting for a job, she tells me she's got a proposal ready. With a dazzling smile, she leaned in and asked me if I wanted to work in her shop. I'm completely blown away. Her shop, the very place she works. She proudly boasts that it's Nadai Sujasoba, the best diner in the whole old capital. I'm stuck in my doubts. I'd rather sharpen my skills under a chef who's way better than me. She catches my doubt instantly, then grins and dares me one bite, and I'll change my mind. The very next morning, she strides in like a winner and proudly unveils her shop, Nadai Sugisoba. She admits she was so pumped she couldn't bring herself to tell the manager anything about me. She just wanted me to get to sleep. I'm blown away by that crystal clear glass and the way the magical light dances over everything like it's alive. Even the food models in that window are crafted by a true master artisan. This place is so insanely luxurious that even royalty can't resist paying a visit. I blurt out, "Is Nidai Tsujisoba this fancy first-class restaurant everyone's obsessed with?" She laughs and tells me it's a public diner where even the cheapest soba is only 340 call. I'm stunned by the ridiculously low price, but she leans in and swears the ingredients are top tier. She shoves me inside, and the manager's already there, ready to hand me a taste of the unknown. As I get closer, a gorgeous scent hits me so hard I nearly stop in my tracks. That mouth-watering smell hits different. Nothing like meat or veggies, because it's born out of the sea itself. This stuff smells like dried seafood, but it's crazy gentle and it tastes insanely delicious. I'm telling you, no doubt this chef is a total master, and every dish proves it. A smiling man greets me and introduces himself as the manager, Yakito Hatsushiro. I can't help it. I blush hard, totally spellbound by the professional aura pouring off the man in front of me. Chap is blown away. The moment Yukito steps in, his calm professionalism and perfect manners feel almost untouchable. Yakito flashes a smile and asks the blushing guy right to his face if he'd want a job. He tells them he's been hunting for a new hire who can actually cook. Lateria pops in with a bright grin, waving like a cheerleader and snapping the manager's full attention in seconds. She says Chap's training here is exactly what he needs to build the perfect future restaurant. Immortified flooded the chat with angry protests, swearing he'd never said anything that presumptuous. He scrambles to shut down her accusations, but his companion just laughs at the panic. Yukito cuts right in with a calm grin, nudging Chap to taste their soba first before they make any call. He gestures at a free seat by the counter, like he's personally rolling out a red carpet for you. Yakito flashes a huge bright grin, thrusts the menu at him, and tells him to go ahead and order. Chap snatches the perfectly crafted menu and stares at it in stunned, quiet amazement. While Chap scans the menu, Yakito leans in and orders Lateria to bring him some water. He stares at these crazy new dishes, but only catches one vegetable topping he actually recognizes. Yakito spots the hesitation on his face and shoots out a new cold soba dish as the perfect way to break the freeze. Chap locks eyes on that huge, mysterious brown topping perched on the cold noodles. Yakito leans in and tells you that once summer creeps closer, that cold soba hits different, crispy, refreshing, and downright perfect. Chap leans on the manager's word and dives headfirst into that unfamiliar dish. He holds his breath for the unknown meal, and his heart hammers with nervous, electrifying excitement. He tastes the foreign dish and suddenly sees it for what it is, a golden shot to level up and become a better chef. His eyes flare with anticipation the moment the food hits the table. A perfectly piled bowl of Hayashi Kitsun soba gets set down on the counter, looking absolutely irresistible. He leans in close, eyes locked on the perfectly plated dish, and just freezes in awe. Lateria flopped down right beside him and shoved her own bowl into place, jolting Yakito so hard he nearly jumped. She happily declares, "My breakfast," and the manager immediately blushes like he finally gets it. With a big, heartfelt itadakimasu, Lateria dives straight into her meal like she means it. Chap leans in, eyes locked as Lateria flips those chopsticks with deadly precision. She slurps those noodles with full-on gusto, and her face lights up like pure joy just erupted. He clocked the look on her face, pure culinary bliss blazing in her eyes. He sees it instantly. The guy isn't faking it at all, just tearing into that incredible food with a real honest smile. Inspired, he whips his gaze to his own bowl, ready to step up like a real chef and take it head on. It's piled with grain noodles, drowned in a deep dark broth, and topped off with those crunchy little brown triangles. He thought he had every ingredient figured out. Then he realized he couldn't name a single one of those components. With a jolt, he snaps to the truth. This dish isn't food at all, it's a test, and it's coming for him. He steadies his hands and reaches for those unfamiliar wooden chopsticks like they're a mystery waiting to be solved. He swears this soba had to come from somewhere else, another culture, another world. With pure grit burning in his chest, he decides to taste the noodles first. He awkwardly wrestles with the chopsticks, fighting for a solid grip like it's a battle he can't quite win. He finally raises a glistening bundle of noodles to his mouth. The perfectly sliced noodles gleam under the light like tiny shimmering jewels you'd swear are priceless. He takes his first bite, and the noodles glide down his throat like they were made for him. A tiny splash erupts the instant those noodles finally hit his lips. As I flung wide open in an instant of raw, breath-stealing shock, a vision of blooming flowers along the coast hits you with this deep, tangled flavor that's anything but simple. He stumbles into a calm forest clearing and blurts out, totally amazed, how insanely delicious everything smells and tastes. He takes one bite and instantly knows this food is unlike anything he's ever tasted before. It's a whole different universe compared to those other noodle dishes like spaghetti. Local food often isn't trying to wow you. It's all about piling on massive portions until your stomach can't take one more bite. It's tough, briny, and made the old-school way, so food survives for the long haul. Some dishes lean on pricey ingredients alone, betting everything on what money can buy. But this chef twists every ingredient into its absolute best flavor, like it's answering his call. Lateria loudly proclaims that this shop is the finest in the entire kingdom. CHAP results are next. But before anything else, you've got to fully understand this SOBA. He snaps his focus straight onto that mysterious brown topping. He raises the piece and spots the savory broth oozing out, like it's begging to be tasted. It shines slick with oil, but it somehow refuses to ever hit the fryer. He takes a single bite and bam, his entire world flips upside down all over again. A wild rush of power hits him like a colossal waterfall, smashing down and drowning every thought in his head. His brain goes dead silent as he tries to wrap his head around that mind-blowing taste. A tidal wave of sweet and savory goodness crashes over his tongue. It's unlike anything he's ever tasted before, blowing his whole idea of delicious out of the water. He throws this into sharp contrast with the upper class's refined, delicate dishes. This topping hits hard bold, in your face, and once you taste it, there's no mistaking that unmistakable deliciousness. He swallows that deep, unforgettable flavor still burning on his tongue. He jerks in a gasp and demands Lateria tell him what this ridiculously mouth-watering thing is. Lateria grins like she knows a secret, then tells him it's called Oh-Age-san. Chap keeps blurting that bizarre name again and again, totally stunned that anyone even says it. Yukito drops the wild truth that it's made from beans, and Chap just can't believe a word of it. Lateria leaned in and asked the manager if she could take a quick spin around the place. Chap pauses at the strange little shop, scans the menu like a detective, and studies the food and the master chef, trying to figure out why it all feels so unreal. He clenches his fist and steels himself to learn every last thing he can hear. He rises to his feet and drops into a deep bow, all formal and earnest, pleading for a job at the restaurant. Yukito grabs his new employee's hand and welcomes him like a trusted teammate, ready, reliable, and totally capable. 5 days fly by, and now Chap is fully locked in. He's officially part of the team. Chap and Lateria move like a perfect duo, blazing through the lunch rush without a single hiccup. The shop is roaring with noise as Yukito shouts the next order across the crowd. Chap fires off a giant order to Lateria, and she confirms it on the spot. Yukito watches his new employee closely, relief hitting him hard because this help couldn't have come at a better time. After clocking in at his family's diner, Chap became a total pro behind the counter. Yukito can't help but feel grateful that Chap nailed their unique style, and it shows in every frame. But he can feel it. There's a deeper, harsher reason behind Chap's dedication. Chapri blurts out his big dream one day. He's opening his own restaurant for real. He still can't forget the gut punch of tasting the manager's soba. He begged right on the spot to learn how to cook dishes, so innovative they felt unreal. Yukito can't stop second-guessing himself, wondering if he'll ever find the courage to be the kind of teacher he truly wants to be. But Chap can't help grinning, thrilled that his passion finally got the credit it deserves. His dream of becoming a chef burns like fuel, and it sharpens every move he makes in the kitchen. He totally overcooks the noodles, classic newbie mistake, like it just slipped out of his hands. Yukito leans in, reassures him, and promises, "You'll get the hang of it real soon." He tells you it's all muscle memory and that Chap's instincts are freakishly on point. Chap's eyes flare, he can't back down now, and he eagerly vows to keep pushing forward. Chat leaned over the huge pot and grilled everyone, asking, "How do you make dashi from scratch?" Yukito lets the cat out of the bag 2 power ingredients, kelp and smoked bonito flakes. He breaks it down. Katsuobushi is made by smoking and drying fish until they're packed with deep, bold flavor. He even points out that the best broth starts with humble vegetables and rich animal bones. Chap feverishly scribbles notes, and every single lesson hits like pure gold. He admits he hasn't even figured out what kind of shop he's opening yet, but he's determined to forge it on the lessons he's picking up right here. Yukito's heart leaps. Someone out there is trying to carry on Soba's soul, and it means the world to him. That realization ignites a fresh spark of purpose in Yukito, and suddenly everything feels worth fighting for. With his noodle strainer clutched tight, he slaps out, "All right," then grins and says, "Let's give it everything." The clock on the wall clicks, and you can feel the afternoon lull settling in. Chap's eyes let out a breath of relief as the customers finally started to thin out. Latteria grins and tells him the evening rush is about to hit any second. He drops the details about La Reco, the fancy noble restaurant that doesn't take walk-ins, because reservations are mandatory. Latteria brings up the legendary Great Eatery, backed by a huge staff. Chap wraps up his own shop, Suja Soba, and somehow it's still the busiest place in town. Latteria leans in with a grin and asks him, "So are you getting sick of it?" With a soft, reassuring grin, Chap swears up and down that there's absolutely no way it's true. He's absolutely loving the work, and she jumps in saying it's the best there is. He stares into his grim past, where every single day was a fight just to stay alive. Now he's genuinely grateful his manager and his materia patiently guide him, and it changes everything. He admits cooking and those weird magical tools are still a nightmare to fully master, but Yukito's kind words keep flashing in his mind, urging him to watch closely. With cheeks dusted pink, he can't help but think, this place is awesome. Latteria tells him, "You eat, I'll guard the front." Chap snaps awake and realizes, yep, it's finally time for the staff meal. He storms to the back and tells Yukito, "I'm ready to chow down." A steaming, flawless bowl of wakame soba lands in front of them exactly as requested. Chap stares at the dish, then freezes because he realizes he's never even tried this one before. For him, staff mealtime isn't just food. It's a priceless, can't-miss moment. It's not only about surviving, it's his chance to sharpen his palate and level up his skill. The wakame soba is this simple little miracle, basically a cake soba, but with extra seaweed piled on top. Across countless lands, people toss this seaweed aside like it's worthless trash. He takes that first bite, and the texture hits him like a sweet surprise, way more delightful than he ever expected. That firm, tender chew just hits perfectly. It's pure, awesome satisfaction. He can't believe something everyone ignored could hit this hard and taste this insanely good. That soba has a one-of-a-kind, clean crunch that perfectly locks in with its flavor. He slurps the noodles and instantly gets it. This is how the aroma explodes. He leans in, tasting every detail like it's a mystery, picking apart each tiny note with laser focus. That kind of harmony could never be squeezed out of a bowl of spaghetti noodles. The soba the manager whips up, he swears it's pure art, like every bite is a masterpiece. In the blink of an eye, he realizes every last noodle is gone. With fire in his eyes, he rises from his seat like he's about to make his move. He strides straight for the big, modern rice cooker sitting on the counter. With one eager click, he flips the lid open. A burst of steam explodes upward, and boom, perfectly fluffy white rice reveals itself. He scoops him up into a bowl, and stares in awe as it gleams back at him, glossy and unreal. He whips up his second course rice, paired with that leftover soba broth. That rice hits with a dreamy, silky texture, and then you taste this gentle, natural sweetness that just lingers. He grins, instantly knowing exactly why this one grain hits different. This food is so versatile it clings to every savory dish like it was made for it. He decides to skip the curry today. He sinks his teeth into a huge bite and just savors that pure, perfect taste of rice. He shakes in a dash of shikimi tagarashi into the broth that's left. He raises the bowl to his lips and downs every last drop. A deep, blissful sigh bursts out of him, and pure satisfaction washes over his whole face. With the empty bowl in his hands, he sits in silence, replaying how insanely delicious it all was. Eating like this isn't for everyone. It's a special privilege the staff only get. He sets the bowl down and blurts, "Ah, now that was delicious." He looks back on the days he had to pinch every coin and skimp on food just to keep his money alive. Latteria leans in. Then her eyes pop when she realizes he's already done eating. She tells him, "It's my turn to take a break," and then points him to the front. "You've got it from here." Yakido cuts in and reminds him that today's staff meal is wakame soba. With a wicked grin, he tells the employees, "The wakame, it's all you can eat." Chap tightens his bandana and a fresh burst of drive slams into his chest. All right, he draws a breath, declares it to himself and says, "Time to work." While he's on shift, he catches two maids trading whispers in the shadows. Whispers spread that the Duke is freaking out over pathetic Lady Mars. The story cuts straight to the towering, majestic spires of Alval Castle, daring you to look away. In a glittering, lavish room, a maid leans in, coaxing a stubborn child to take a bite. She leans in, batting her eyes at Lady Mars, and whispers, "For the smallest taste, just a little." That little fox-eared girl shakes her head and refuses. She insists it just isn't yummy. A caption flashes on screen, revealing she's Hazen's adopted daughter, Marswell Conan Alville. The maid just stares, her face tight with deep, unshakable worry. Mars starts to cry, stunned by the thought of why she's left all alone. She shoves her face into the pillow and breaks down in raw sobs, missing her mother and father like her heart's tearing apart. In a flashback, she's got a map of her homeland laid out as she runs the con. Her mother didn't just look beautiful, she became a fox-like beast in the blink of an eye. Mars, born from two worlds, got her mother's ears and that wild tail along with everything else. Her parents locked eyes at first sight, and once that spark caught, they never let go. A bright memory flashes in this joyful young Mars, grinning like the world can't hurt him. She vividly recalls rushing to her parents and telling them, with all her heart, just how much she loved them. Their loving embrace was the heartbeat of her whole world. But just when happiness felt perfect, tragedy slammed the brakes and stole it away. A grim-faced butler steps in and hands the child two tiny sealed urns. What are these?" a young Mars blurts out, her voice shaking with pure confusion. He leans in with a heavy voice and tells her the truth. These are the remains of her parents. A flashback rips open the moment when that carriage crash stole both of their lives. Alone in the shadows, the orphan girl hugged her toy tight and wept for her parents like her heart would burst. Her small face becomes a heartbreaking masterpiece of grief, the kind that feels like it might swallow her whole. A towering presence drops in front of her, and she leans forward to whisper, "Grandpa." Dukai-sen cuts her off and tells her, "No, I'm your great-grandfather's brother." He softly murmurs her name, Mars. He offers her a whole new life with him, then urges her to come with him to Alville. And just like that, she was left to survive a lonely life inside the Duke's grand castle. She'd lost both her mother and her father. She found herself dropped into a strange land she'd never even heard of. She was boxed in by strangers' faces she'd never seen. Even the food threw us off. Every bite felt nothing like home. She breaks down in tears, swearing it's not yummy like those missing spices just opened the door to danger. I hear her voice echo from the doorway of her room like it's calling my name. In his study, a maid burst in and reported that Mars has refused to eat again once more. The Duke can't stop fearing she'll vanish into nothingness and end up reunited with her parents. He can't stop thinking, does Albal have any food that can save her? At the soba shop, the castle maid practically pleads with Yakito for a curry tip. The staff spills that everyone always grills them about their secret spices. Yakito slams his fist down and declares that his curry can only be served at his shop. On a castle balcony, the Duke leans over and demands to know from the maid, "Is Mars awake yet?" Every week, Mars shows up like clockwork, calling him great uncle and treating him to a real bed. The Duke leans over her, and his gaze is split between power and raw concern, etched into a face creased with pain. Inside the great castle, Duke Alval stood there, drowning in a sorrow so deep it felt like it had swallowed the whole room. He sits at Mars's bedside, leaning in as he asks, "How are you feeling today?" That little fox-faced kid barely nods, just a weak, heart sunk yes. He remembers the brutal report from his own staff. Lady Mars isn't physically ill at all. They told him it was a heart sickness, an aching sadness that had only gotten worse with time. The healers basically admitted there's no medicine that can truly fix it. The Duke leans down and apologizes to the child, admitting he'd been gone on business way too long. He snaps into action, lifting her gently off the bed and carrying her out for a walk. He hauls the listless girl through the castle gardens, and the attendants trail behind, fretting the whole way. The Duke leans down toward her, worry weighing heavy in his chest as the child stays silent. He's completely stunned by how light she's become, like she shed all that weight in an instant. He still remembers her first arrival walking at his side, clutching his hand like it was everything. But now she's too weak, and he's forced to carry her wherever they go, while she sobs and fights back, refusing to be held by a single maid. He falls into despair, praying anyone in this whole world can finally heal her. Suddenly, a jolt rips through him as the child in his arms stirs awake with intent. He's frozen in shock as Ma speaks up, demanding to know what he's seeing. Her tiny hand jabs toward that weird, sleek building, built right into the castle wall. He breaks it down like, it's a diner welcome to Nadai Sudisoba. He remembers the shop is built right into the castle's outer wall. A diagram spells out the secret, how the back of the shop swings open and reveals the castle garden. He remembers telling Yakito, the owner, that he could use the garden for breaks. Mars shoots the question, is there a shop inside the wall? And he confirms, yeah, it's Yakito's. He suddenly fires up and tells them the real truth. This stranger is the one running the shop with his gift. His attendants are all rattled, convinced it's wrong to warn a kid about strangers. Mars squints at the brand new word, totally lost, and tries to say stranger out loud. The Duke leans in and asks if she's curious, like he's daring her to come closer and see everything for herself. She gives a tiny, soft nod, like a secret yes. And you can tell her curiosity has finally caught fire. Right as they come closer, his attendants bolt ahead to grab a table for them before anyone else can. Attendants shouted to the staff, announcing their all-important guests were about to arrive. The Duke leans in and asks what she thinks of Yukito's shop, and she bursts out that it's absolutely amazing. The attendant points out that it's still before noon, so the place shouldn't be jam-packed yet. Suddenly, Mars's sensitive nose twitches as that familiar scent hits her, like it's calling her name. A sudden memory hits her. There's that table packed with bright, mouth-watering food. She's hit with a wave of memories, her parents' warm smiles, and the comforting smell of their home flooding her senses. The Duke studies her face, and then it hits him hard, like a sudden deep realization snapping into place. He can still feel the pure rush when he first tasted that mind-blowing curry rice from the shop. He came back that same night, practically bragging about how insanely delicious the meal was. He leans in and asks Mars if she can smell that amazing curry right away. She leans in and tells him it reeks just like the food from her home. The Duke freezes as her words hit like the last puzzle piece, snaps perfectly into place. He suddenly clocks it her homeland, while Conan sits in the south drenched in spices. Her heartbreak didn't just steal her appetite, it wrecked it in a way grief alone couldn't explain. It was the dry, flavorless food from his northern home that just didn't sit right with her. He grins, realizes he slipped up before, and locks in because now he knows exactly what to do next. He suggests they grab lunch right here and dig into curry rice together. Mars lets one tear of hope slip down, and it feels like the universe just blinked. She remembers her mum feeding her with a warm smile, whispering that everyone at home loved curry rice. The memory hits like a punch. There's a table stacked high with richly seasoned, vibrant dishes that practically glow with flavor. Is it a whole other world compared to the bland, salty food they shove at the castle? The Duke grips her tightly, staring at this strange place like it might be the one spot where she can finally get a bite. He tells her the automatic door is pure magic, and she can't believe how awesome it is. She sniffs the air once more, and a hot blush of anticipation spreads across her little face. She leans in and tells him, "That curry smells amazing, just like the fish I used to eat." She flashes back to the mouth-watering fish feasts she used to devour at home. The moment they step in, a warm welcome hits them like a hug from the heart. Chap and Latteria are utterly stunned as the Duke drops into a deep bow just to greet them. The Duke rushes out an apology for the surprise visit and leans in, asking if Yakito's in the kitchen. Latteria nods and confirms it, then swears he'll deliver the Duke's greetings. Mars gets a little bashful and quietly tugs at Latteria's sleeve. Latterius flashes a delighted smile and swears that their manager is going to cook her up an unforgettable meal. Mars nods hard, and her cheeks flare pink with pure, hopeful excitement. Latteria leans down and gives the little child a soft, calming pat on the head. That touch hits her like lightning, and suddenly Mars feels her mother's presence like she's right there, praising her as a good girl. She shuts her eyes and whispers, "Latteria's hand is so warm, it feels like fire." Latteria blurts, "Is Mars your granddaughter?" And the Duke snaps back, "No, she's my niece." Latteria's face melts into sympathy as soon as she hears it. The Duke drops his gaze, sadness crushing his chest as he admits this whole mess hurts down to the bone. Latteria snaps back to her feet with a bright grin and offers to fetch them some water right away. An attendant ushers the Duke and Mars into a cozy booth, guiding them straight to their seats. The Duke leans in and asks if the food's too spicy, and Mars shoots back, "Don't worry, it's totally fine." Latteria sweeps in with a tray and drops a set of glasses of water in front of everyone. Mars jerks in awe, staring at ice cubes drifting inside the glass like they're magic. She stares at the glittering cup and the ice, convinced it's pure magic. This has to be one of those magical shops. From the kitchen, Yakito spots his important guests and instantly frets, "Wait, what's going on here?" He stares at the Duke and that little sad child for a beat, like the whole scene is weighing on him. He grins to himself and vows to whip up something extra delicious just for them. The Duke leans in, urging Mars to open her mouth so he can finally give her a sip of water. He softly guides her hand as she raises the icy glass to her lips. She takes a sip, and that icy burst hits her. She shivers with pure, delighted pleasure. Her face bursts into a radiant smile as she declares in pure excitement that it's delicious. The Duke practically bursts with joy and leans in, grinning, asking if she wants even more to drink. She blurts out yes and goes, "I'm ready, let's dig into that curry." The Duke nods, then tells her to chow down as the meal finally arrives. Latteria and Chap slide in a steaming curry rice set, and the whole room suddenly smells like victory. They told him they'd cooked up a special mini curry set made for Mars. You get a steaming bowl of soba noodles and a plate of curry rice piled high with flavor. Mars leans in and says it's incredible, and her cheeks burn bright with pure excitement. She spots the rich brown soba broth and the curry's thick, heavy sauce like they're begging to be uncovered. She leans in and takes a deep, satisfied breath, loving every second of that amazing aroma. She leans in and tells the Duke this is the exact same smell as the food back home. She watches her with a warm smile, thrilled to see her shining and locked in, like nothing could dull her joy. Emotion crushes him, and tears of pure relief spill into his eyes. He points to every part of the meal, rice, sauce, and soba, like he's showing you the whole secret. He asks what she likes first, and she doesn't hesitate. She picks curry right away. He carefully lifts a tiny, perfect scoop of rice and curry onto a spoon. He thrusts it toward her, and with a soft voice, he tells her, "Open wide." She parts her lips and takes the very first bite, like she can't wait another second. The flavor hits her like a time skip, yanking her straight into a memory of her mother feeding her. It's a sweet memory of a happy family meal, laughter everywhere, and food so delicious it feels like a hug. In a golden, sun-drenched memory, a young Mars sits at a grand table while her parents grin at her like everything's about to be perfect. But right now, her face contorts as she grips her composure with shaking hands, fighting to stop the tears from spilling. The dam bursts open, and she screams at the top of her lungs, sobbing for the mother and father she can't find. The Duke snaps into panic, blurted out, "Was it too spicy?" And she immediately shakes her head, shutting his worries down. "It's so yummy," she sobs, swearing the flavor tastes exactly like home cooking. She's sobbing, begging to share this meal with her mummy and daddy. She clings to the memory of their loving faces, smiling as they urge her to take another bite of that delicious food together. Overwhelmed, Mars grabs her head and screams that she wants to eat with them. Duke Alvil stands there, chest heavy with sorrow as the truth finally dawns. She hears her father's voice in her head, telling her to savor the meal together with everyone. That sweet memory keeps rolling. Her parents press her, insisting this mouth-watering feast has to be shared. But now she's stuck all by herself, staring into the distance as she realizes her parents are miles and miles away. The Duke yanks her into a crushing hug, his eyes saying what he knows: this goodbye means they're gone for good. He softly tells her the cruel truth: her parents have ascended to the sky, and they'll never come back. The little girl keeps sobbing, her tiny body trembling under the weight of pure heartbreak. The Duke grabs her tiny, trembling hand and cups it in his big, steady grip. He tells her not to lose hope, because there are still people out there who'll sit down and share a meal with her. She jerks her gaze upward, tears spilling, and pleads for someone, anyone, to sit and share a meal with her. Yeah, he nods, eyes calm but unshakably determined. He swears that once she gets bigger, everything about her life is about to change. She's going to win over brand new friends and pack them around that table, just like that. Once she grows up, she's going to hunt for the one person meant to be her spouse. They'll sit down together and start fresh, one meal, one promise, building a whole new life from the ground up. And soon, she'll be holding her own kids in her arms. They'll forge into one new family, and every day starts with them piling up at the same table to share meals together. As those kids grow up, build their own families, and take over the next chapter of life, her table will be packed with loved ones again, just like before. Mars tilts his head up, totally confused, and blurts out, "So what even is a family?" She can't help but wonder when she grows up. Will she really be able to pull all of that off? She's drowning in confusion, completely alone, staring at everything she can't make sense of. Will this crushing loneliness ever finally let up? The Duke makes a vow until she turns into an adult. He'll guard her with his life. He tells her, straight to the heart, that her parents are still up there, watching over her from the sky. She asks, "So you're watching me right now, Mummy and Daddy too, okay?" The Duke grins at her, then promises their biggest wish is simply for her to be happy. So he tells her, "Don't even think about joining us this soon." To survive, he tells them, means one thing: every bite we swallow turns into power inside us, fueling our body and keeping us moving forward. Mars glares up at him and snaps, "Listen, your castle food is trash and I'm not impressed." The Great Lion. Duke goes utterly speechless when her devastating honesty hits him like a thunderclap. In the kitchen, Litaria and Chap gasped, hands clamped over their mouths as shock hit them like a punch. The castle kitchen staff, straight up eavesdropping, get thrown into absolute panic. Humboldt the Duke finally admits his castle's food is straight up not delicious. He clenches his fist, and a brand new rock-solid resolve lights up in his eyes. He declares it on the spot. "From now on, you'll eat suja soba every single day and you'll die doing it." Mars's face bursts with excitement, her tail wagging like crazy as she asks for more curry. The Duke nods along, then leans in like, "Oh, and trust me, there's a whole feast of other delicious things for you to hunt down and try." He points straight at the soba on the cake sitting on the table. Curious, Mars under his breath keeps repeating the name of that brand new dish. She lifts the spoon and takes a tiny nervous sip of that savory broth. Her eyes flare bright with pure joy as she blurts out, "This is insanely delicious." With a bright grin, she says her mouth feels brand new, and she's ready to dive into more curry. The Duke breaks into laughter and pats her head, right as she bounces up, begging for another helping. From that day onward, the Duke and Mars rolled in like legends, turning them into the shop's biggest, most loved regulars. The staff grins when they spot their daily visitors closing in. They greet Mars with open arms, and she strides in like she owns the place, surrounded by her crew. Inspired, the Duke brings in exotic spices and kickstarts a full-blown culinary revolution inside his castle. These fresh, mouth-watering dishes hit the palace tables, and suddenly the entire nobility can't stop talking about them. Night crashes down on the sprawling city of Alva. A weathered sign for Nadai and Sujisoba hangs right against the ancient castle wall. The shop lights suddenly click off, sealing the end of another brutal, non-stop day. Yakito flips the sign to closed, and with one tired exhale, the whole street feels his burnout. Inside, Chap steps in and gives the worn-out staff a big, earned congratulations for all their brutal hard work. Yukito grins, overwhelmed with relief as fresh customers surge in. He slaps Chap on the shoulder with a warm grin, like "Without you, we never would have made it." Chapter urges bashfully, then pledges to push himself even harder. Right out of nowhere, a chime blasts through Yukito's head. Then a glowing screen snaps into existence in front of him. His gift finally leveled up, blasting all the way to level 7. Yukito's face lights up with pure joy. Then the second the beer finally hits, he yells like he's won the world. His staff just stands there, baffled. Wait, do you mean ale? He clenches his fists and vows this. This is how he sparks a revolution for everyone who drinks in this world. He leans in and declares his lager wipes the floor with their ale, then he calls it a whole revolution. Chap shoots back like he already knew it. Lager comes straight from the Weinheim Empire. He lays it out. Weinheim runs a tight, state-backed monopoly. Nobody else is allowed to make it. That mouth-watering goodness turns it into a real diplomatic weapon. One bite and suddenly everyone's willing to talk. Yakido leans in and asks if the empire is hated. Then his staff jerks back, trembling with pure fear. Lateraya warned them that Weinheim is a ruthless, deadly enemy stalking their kingdom. Yakito grinned grimly, realizing the brewers in that country must be pure evil. He can't stop wondering what kind of insane beer they're even capable of brewing. Lateria snarls at him to back off, but he's convinced his gift will shield him no matter what. He rallies the squad, barking orders to gear up for a wild, non-stop night of beer sales. With a sly grin, he leans in and says, "Yeah, but that's not even the best part. The level up hit way harder than that." He steps up and announces that Croquette Soba just got added to the menu too. Chap is totally baffled, but Lateria instantly clocks it as one of the shop's signature dishes. Yukido takes a slow bite of that crispy croquette and lets it soak up every drop of savory soba broth. With wild, manic glee, he cackles that this combo is the perfect match for beer. Lateria still remembers how her uncle Yukihiko always craved those meals and how they'd eat them together. Yukito declares that in this brand new world, the beer craze is about to kick off. Chap frets about whether they can survive the rush, but Yakido is already swallowed by his own vision. He just wants to taste their smiles and watch the whole world dig into his food like it's magic. Chap and Lateria Sai braced themselves, realizing they had no choice but to go all in and give it everything they've got. Yukito's face shifts the moment a fresh idea slams into his head. He leans in and asks, "So what else is actually worth drinking, besides the Empire's lager?" Lateria leans in, daring him to confirm, does he really mean the legendary fire wine of the dwarves? She leans in and explains it's a powerful spirit, brewed by blending ale with enchanted pharmaceuticals. Chap reveals that the dwarves own an autonomous mountain kingdom to the northeast, running the whole territory like it's theirs to command. Yakido leans in and asks if they're the same dwarves from the wild fantasy tales he's always telling. Lateria sighs, checks them, and confirms short, thick, and unbelievably jacked. Chap cuts in saying they're a stubborn bunch of craftsmen who absolutely love to drink. Yakito can't help but wonder, why do the dwarves get their own territory inside a human kingdom? 500 years ago, the dwarves were living it up in the southern nation of Femoria, thriving like nothing could stop them. Then a civil war exploded, and the Ueda clan was brutally chased out of their homeland. Right then, a monstrous flame giant named Surt slid in like a stranger, and everything changed. The giant roared with terrifying power, smashing through everything and ravaging the entire continent. Surt finally got cut down by a blade swung by another terrifying stranger. The unified nation on the continent crumbled, and from that moment on, total chaos swallowed the world. The Ueda clan, torn from their home, wandered the blood-soaked warlands as desperate refugees. Their grueling journey finally spat them out at the newly born Cathedral Kingdom. They carved out a home in the brutal Dagad Mountains, dead, empty land where not a single thing dared to grow. Here, in this forsaken wasteland, the dwarves threw down their fate and carved out their final home. With sheer grit, they punched their way straight through the unforgiving bedrock. Deep inside the mountain, they carved out a jaw-dropping underground city, buried in stone like a secret civilization. Their miners started striking rich new veins, ones humans had been blind to for ages. Their discovery hit like a shockwave. A dwarf burst with excitement, shouting that he'd found a brand new, loaded vein of ore. In under a century, they turned lifeless wasteland into a city packed with master artisans. That's when they cracked the code and invented a brand new, revolutionary drink ale. Back then, doors were usually crafted in things like ironwork, never brewed like some sort of drink. Back then, not a single soul in the Ueda clan could brew a drop of alcohol. For the longest time, people swore it was only good for making bread or feeding livestock. But then, one mad genius pulled off the impossible and turned grain into alcohol. Back then, people cooked up booze from fruit. Brewing from grain wasn't even a thing yet. The Weda clan pulled off a brilliant move, selling their new ale recipe patent to the entire world. They'll burst onto the scene like wildfire, instantly turning into the drink everyone's chasing in this entire age. The inventor was no one from around here, just a human stranger, reborn from a place called Middle-earth. He'd been discovered wandering, stranded, and alone near the mountains. Then the dwarves stepped in and guarded him like he was their own. He buried his real identity and slipped into a peaceful life, right among the very people who saved him. The gift he'd gotten from a god was so special it didn't even need a fancy name. It was called brewing. To repay the dwarves' kindness, he unleashed his power and brewed ale that had never existed before. The dwarves took one sip and the drink absolutely blew them away with how insanely delicious it was. They lunged at him, eyes blazing, demanding right then and there how he pulled it off. The dwarves were taught straight up how to brew ale from scratch. The stranger leaned in and warned them without his gift. The taste would never hit the same again. They couldn't touch his skill, sure, but their own ale brewing still turned out a win. And that success echoed a tale from 400 years ago. The dwarves started rolling in profits, raking in cash from their own resources, and soaking up every penny from ale patent fees. The king was freaking out because these so-called residents were living in his lands and paying the crown absolutely nothing. In the king's council, the advisors leaned in and revealed the truth. Dwarves didn't start here. They were born in Fulmoria. One advisor panicked, fearing they'd actually reconcile with Fulmoria and that would spark a brutal, hostile enclave. Another advisor slammed his fist on the table, warning that Fulmoria's interference would ignite a war. A worried man grabbed the king's attention and demanded to know which road they should take. The king leaned back, eyes narrowing, weighing a brutal problem that wouldn't let up. He shot a gesture in the air and told them he had an idea of his own. He made it official, declared the Ueda clan full-on citizens of the kingdom. They were handed the whole Dag-Ad mountain range and told, "This is yours, an autonomous territory, sealed in their name." A treaty was inked in bloodless ink, swearing that every other noble would stay out of their lands forever. The clan's leader was handed the grandest title of all duke. They got a brand new family name, Dag-Ad, and from then on, they'd pay taxes, kept in check and not going overboard. The king's advisors were throwing a victory feast because they dodged war and still hauled in the taxes. For 400 years straight, the dwarves kept their freedom locked in tight, staying out of every last bit of politics. The ducal house of Wydidagad has turned into the kingdom's ultimate power symbol. They say the kingdom never would have survived the last war if it weren't for their help. The very first weapons they churn out are the lifeblood of the royal army fighting today. A king leaned in and told his sons, Hyzen and Victor, that the dwarves were pure, unshakable necessity. He ordered them to swallow any hate and pledge eternal friendship. The young princes burst out in perfect sync, swearing they'd obey their father no matter what. Hyzen runs up to someone and asks straight out how the king is doing, then blurts out that it's his younger brother. The throne's held by the unshakable Duchess Heidi Vida Dagad, an undeniable hero everyone across the land knows by name. The story slams into a massive castle, looming under a sky choked with dark clouds. In Duke Hayes's study, Marcus Alville sank into a chair as he opened a brand new letter that just showed up. His hand snaps down and crushes the parchment in raw, frustrated fury. He roars for his loyal retainer, barking, adamant to me, at him. He can't believe it, his brother is coming in just a few days, and the news guts him with disbelief. As Duchess Heidi barrels forward, Duke Hai's son is crushed by his brother's absurd demands. A band of riders tears through a snowy mountain pass at full sprint, hooves pounding and breath blazing in the cold. Two worn-out dwarves begged their leader for rest after 3 brutal days of riding. Duchess Heidi snaps back with pure fury, screaming at them not to be stupid. She jabs her horse forward and screams that she's got to drink it right now. With a greedy grin, she vows she has to get a taste of that legendary alcohol in Nadai Sujisoba. 2 of her men stare in disbelief as she barrels forward at an unstoppable speed. Dukai's son tells everyone the dwarves are absolutely indispensable, but they also owe the kingdom a debt so huge it'll rattle the throne. Heidi beams as she remembers her ancestors were cast out of Fulmoria, ripped from everything, and left with no country at all to call their own. Tears pouring down her face, she tells the story of how the humans of this kingdom opened their doors and let them settle. Then she blows it off, saying, "My dad's told me this same story 1,000,000 times," and flat out calls it boring. She bursts into hearty laughter and tells them, once we became citizens, they handed us real autonomy and fair taxes to match. Then she blurts out, chest puffed with pride, that their leader just got promoted straight to duke. Hyzen can't shake the feeling there's a political game at play, like the kingdom wants their skills. Or worse, they're being dragged into war. Two longtime friends bicker like they're really sparring for fun, and Hyzen keeps snapping her responses into place the whole time. That true dwarf spirit is shining through. Hyzen grins and basically tells them, since you owe this debt, you can't say no even when the requests are totally out of line. Heidi snaps her gaze aside, thinking hard, and trails off mid-sentence. Her smile drops, shadows crawl across her face, and she declares, voice iron cold, "We're not the kingdom's slaves." In a razor-close shot of her eye, she declares, "When it really counts, I trust my own soul." The younger one should have shoved away fear and stood ready, because the moment might come when that duty hits his doorstep. Her father grins and teases her. "Get ready," he says, "because one day she'll inherit his title." He bursts out laughing and yanks her pigtail playfully, swearing she's the next successor. Heidi, still young but all fire, snaps back at him and tells him to keep pounding the forge. She pouts hard and refuses to do it, then demands that he adopts a son. Her mum swoops in, doting on her adorable little brother, and then bam, someone snaps and calls her an old hag. Heidi's terrified, sobbing as her mother bears 2 knives and screams at her husband, like the house is about to explode. Heidi can't forget her beloved, foolish father, taken by an epidemic 30 years ago. Against her will, she took up his title, and ever since, she's been ruling the Dagad territory like a force you can't stop. She's overflowing with gratitude. Her 2 sons grew up right, and she knows they'll carry her legacy and succeed one day. A covered wagon from the dwarven caravan creaks along the road, rolling forward like it's got destiny in its wheels. After 30 years as Duchess, Heidi can't stop thinking it might finally be time to step back and retire. Her advisor leans in and tells her, "Don't act like you're ancient, you're not that old, and this kind of talk is way too soon." Heidi's face says done, and she snaps back that she's basically pushing 60. Her advisor snaps that she needs to bury that weakness because their real work is just about to kick off. The caravan barrels toward a massive, sprawling city far on the horizon. The advisor leans in and tells him the royal capital is finally right there, just over the horizon. Inside a royal warehouse, officials tore into the dwarves' twice-a-year arms drop, inspecting every last crate like it could explode. The razor-sharp swords and sturdy shields get rounded up and handed out to the kingdom's knights. Duchess Heidi issues a ruthless order. She demands to personally oversee the arms delivery herself. An official demanded she verify the inventory, and she snapped back a curt, no-nonsense yes. In a hidden private chamber, the king summons Duchess Wiededagad for a secret conversation. An attendant scolds her for her disrespect, but the king shrugs and lets her blunt honesty hang in the air. She shrugs it off and laughs, then tells them that's just how dwarves do things, straight to the point. Her face hardens as she slams her cup down, and she demands right then and there that he get on with it. The king slams down an unrolled decree and demands a 20 jump in the next delivery. He hands the scroll to the Duchess, and she snatches it up to read every last term. As she and her advisors scan the list, pure shock rips across their faces. Heidi's face hardens into a heavy, grim look the moment she realizes what it all really means. The list hammers for even more arrows, more shields, and mithril weapons so advanced they feel unreal. She nods, admits the numbers jumped by 20, and then immediately realizes, yeah, this isn't normal. Something big is seriously wrong. The king finally admits that asking for a huge amount, out of nowhere, is straight up unreasonable. She snaps back that even with a whole year's notice, this would still be a brutal job. She snaps back that no one can possibly pull off a sudden demand like that. Not when they're already locked into their own plans. She blasts the idea that mass-producing arms with no strategy will slam her territory straight into bankruptcy. The king finally admits his demand is out of line, especially now that the harvest of ore has been shrinking. She demands to know what this sudden, massive rearmament is really all about. Her hand clenches tight as she realizes this isn't just strategy. It's a full-blown war setup. The king loudly insists his nation isn't the kind to attack nothing like the dreaded Weinheim Empire. He tells Heidi, "We don't have a reason to strike, but we're going to gear up anyway and get ready." He fires back, reminding her she isn't a slave and she's got every right to say no. He squares up to her and presses, "So is this the moment you finally turn me down?" A tense silence snaps between the king and the Duchess as she weighs her next move. The king stares at her like a blade, dead serious, waiting to hear what she'll say next. He finally spills it. His spies have been clocking weird, suspicious moves from the Empire. The shocking news hits, and a wave of panic rips through the dwarven delegation. He lays out his dream to beef up their defenses just in case the worst ever hits. Heidi Grimaces finally realizes the troublesome Weinheim Empire isn't just a problem, it's the reason all of this is happening. For ages, the rival Weinheim Empire and them have been stuck in a brutal Cold War, locked in tension with no end in sight. Heidi steps up to serve the kingdom, fully aware that their alliance could snap at any moment. She lets out a heavy sigh and admits this massive request is going to be brutally hard to pull off. The king demands to know if her craftsman can pull it off, but she already knows there's no way that job gets done. An advisor straight up tells him Mithril can't be done, like, it'll take 2 years to even get started. Heidi waves off the worry, saying Mithril is magical silver so stubborn and hard to process that even trying feels like a battle. While humans burn out fast, dwarves flex their special gifts and keep going for double the time. She tells herself steel can wait and locks in on Mithril only, swearing she'll train for 6 full months. Her advisors panic, but she's sure they can muscle through it, crank up the hours, and slash the sleep. As her dad's tough words echo in her head, she snaps her hands together with full-on resolve. She jabs a finger at the king and declares with full confidence that they'll take that challenge head-on. The king and his courtier freeze in shock, demanding no, begging to know if she's actually serious. Heidi flashes a huge grin and swears to them she never ever tells a lie. She remembers the brutal grind of that old war, pure suffering, way worse than anything she's facing now. The king thanks her with everything he's got and asks what she wants next, but she's still walking away with the gold. He vows to give you anything he can manage, promising you'll get exactly what you're owed as your reward. Heidi flashes a cheeky grin and asks, "Are you really sure?" And she warns him she might just go straight for something totally outrageous. Her advisor protests, but she fires back and reminds the king they have every right to make that request. She presses him to prove it, and the king immediately nods because yes, he remembers those words really were spoken. She leans in close and drops her bold demand she wants the finest alcohol in the entire kingdom. She tells her advisor she'd rather chase delicious booze than get swallowed by some greedy obsession with gold. A tiny, over the moon, Heidi blurts out that alcohol is the real water of life. The king stops cold, rubs his mustache, and weighs her request for alcohol with a sharp, suspicious stare. She dares him to dig through his own stash and find a drink that can top anything dwarves can brew. The king leans in with a knowing smile and admits the dwarves' ale is downright unbeatable. How do you keep that loud, sure confidence like nothing could ever beat dwarven ale? But the king's face snaps into realization. He already knows exactly where to find that drink. Heidi and her advisors freeze in total silence, stunned to the core by his wildly bold claim. Their shock snaps into loud, disbelief-filled laughter, because no way, right? The king leans in and demands to know if she knows about the third research institute tucked away in the capital. He tells me the chief researcher just shot him a report from Alville. A fresh report drops the scoop from Nadai Sujisoba. There's a heavenly new menu item on deck, a drink called beer. Heidi blurts the strange names Nadai, Tsuchisoba over and over, utterly stunned by what they're supposed to mean. The king claims there's a rumored crown jewel restaurant in his kingdom, yet he's never even stepped inside. She lets out a laugh, totally convinced he's exaggerating the drink's craziness. But the king's expression turns ice cold, and his razor-sharp stare snaps the words right out of her. Heidi's laughter cuts off like a switch, then her eyes go wide and she starts sweating, because she finally realizes he's dead serious. Duchess Heidi bellows for horses, snaps a carriage away, desperate to race to Alval. She rams forward with her dwarven retinue in a deafening charge, smashing across the kingdom's roads. She slips a message to High Sun, letting them know she's here for a drink. Right after that, the terrifying procession storms into the magnificent castle of Alvar. Duke Hyson clocked her lightning-fast arrival, and suddenly there wasn't even a minute to set up the proper formalities. The boisterous Duchess storms into his chambers, and her exhausted retainers scramble in behind her. Hyzen flat out says that no dwarf can resist the wild pull of delicious alcohol. She scoffs at the stuck-up, good-for-nothing nobles lounging around the royal capital. Hyzen snaps back at her biting tongue, but she laughs off the capital's so-called fools as nothing but bandits. She says her bluntness is the perfect weapon. She cuts through unwanted schemers before they even get close. She slams her palm into his back, making the wincing duke bite through the pain and admit he's been way too meticulous. She clocks it instantly. His relentless drive isn't just a trait, it's wearing him down, and the strain is eating him alive. Straight to the point, she smirks and slips into asking who that mysterious stranger is, the one pouring up that ridiculously good new booze. Hyzen grills the stranger and confirms it. Yeah, he's from Earth, just like the hero in dwarven legend. Thrilled, she finds out the shop serves everyone, and the dwarves, oh, they absolutely love that choice. Then she turns to Hyzen and demands to know what he's doing here. What business could he possibly have with her today? He uncovers the king's decree, and she remembers the days when she was served beer and a dai suju soba. The letter announces it loud and clear. Her cooperation and latest service earned her a royal reward. Heidi demands that her whole retinue be allowed to taste the beer, too. She teases him for trying to deliver that formal, noble speech, and it just doesn't fit him at all. As soon as the dwarves burst into the shop, they freeze, pointing, staring, and going silent in stunned disbelief. Seeing that impossible modern building, she leaves her people staring, utterly stunned and completely speechless. They gawk at that wall of flawless glass like someone pulled off an impossible act of pure, breathtaking craftsmanship. Another can't stop staring at the hyper-realistic food models in the display case. The interior looks untouched. Every piece of furniture is perfectly, almost impossibly, matched in design. Hyzen flashes a smug grin and leans into the Duchess, asking what she thinks of this mind-bending, otherworldly marvel. She could only stammer, drowned in overwhelm, totally blanking on what to say. Hyzen tells everyone that on Earth they're stacking whole skyscrapers out of glass. She realizes those towering holy glass structures are nothing more than regular office buildings. The Duchess freezes in shock, staring at Earth like, just how advanced is this world? Hyzen leans in and tells them, I've rented the whole shop for the next hour, no exceptions. Her focus snaps back into place the second she remembers why she's really here, and she finally tastes the legendary beer. As they get closer, the shop's door slides open like it's inviting them in. The automatic door glides open, catching Duchess Heidi off guard, while Duke Hyzen leans back, smug amusement lighting his face. The fearsome dwarven Duchess, Heidi, and her companion gasped like they'd just seen the impossible. Heidi panics and races around the shop, desperately hunting the magic that powers the automatic door. She finally spots a tiny, barely noticeable sensor strapped above the entrance. Inside, Lateria and a jittery guy greet the newcomers with a too bright, cheerful welcome. Dukai Sun storms the huge dwarven crew inside, peppering apologies as they burst in out of nowhere. He whips his eyes across the staff, hunting for that black-haired stranger he was warned about. Hyzen grilled Lateria for the manager's location, and she told him the twist turns out he's stuck in the kitchen. As they sit down, Hyzen can't help but wonder why sober shops have this weird, irresistible pull on the people who come to drink. The Duchess drops onto the stool, and a sweet shock hits her instantly. Her eyes spark as a wave of pure, unexpected joy bursts across her face. She can't stop staring at the simple miracle on her seat, the soft cushion that feels ridiculously luxurious, like it means something. Hyzen throws down their very first order beers for the dwarves and clean water for the humans. Lateria beams back with a bright professional smile, happily locking in the order. She shows up fast with the first round of drinks, rolling right in for the huge crowd. A frosty, magnificent mug of beer thunks onto the table in front of the stunned Duchess Heidi. Hyzen and his companion are handed 2 plain glasses of water. The Duchess gapes at the weird vessel she's calling a jockey, like she can't believe her own eyes. She stares at the glass mugs and realizes the craftsmanship is flawless, every one identical, down to the last detail. She figures out they had to be forged with molds, pure craftsmanship, like a real master's handiwork. Her eyes lock onto the beer. Looks like plain ale at first, but one sip proves it's in a whole league of its own. She leans in, stunned by the shimmering golden liquid so pure it's crystal clear, no speck of sediment in sight. Her eyes catch the crystal clear beer, and the endless climb of bubbles above it feels like it goes on forever. She clamps her fingers around the handle like it's a lifeline, dead sure this drink is about to blow her mind. That scorching chill from the mug hits her the second her fingers land on it, and she yelps like she's been burned. She spots it instantly. Both the mug and the beer are icy cold, the kind of rare, over-the-top luxury you almost never get. A huge, eager grin blooms across her face, like she can barely contain what's coming next. Without even a beat, she hoists the heavy mug and brings it crashing to her lips. She leans in and takes a long, deep sip of the brand-new revolutionary drink. The whole dwarven crew throws back drinks with zero restraint, cheering like the night is theirs alone. She slams the now empty mug down on the wooden counter like it owes her money. A triumphant roar tears out of her the moment the Duchess finally gets what she wanted. Pure satisfaction hitting her like thunder. She flips on the high sun and demands, right on the spot, to know what kind of miracle drink this is. She announces that this beer has completely flipped her whole idea of what liquor is supposed to be. Her companions burst into cheers, swearing it's better than any ale they've ever tasted. Hyzen smirks and taunts whether the dwarves will finally throw in the towel, and she beams right back. Yes. She stares at the beer brewed from barley, just like ale, and still can't believe how wildly different it tastes. A fierce new resolve ignites in her head. She's determined to find a way to brew her own ale better than ever. She suddenly realizes that if she chills the ale, it just might unleash its secret hidden power. Fueled by her plan, she bursts out with another round for the whole crew. She licked her lips, eyeing that beer like trouble, and asked for the perfect food to go with it. Latteria leans in and recommends the shop's fan favorite, fiery spicy curry rice. Heidi's instantly hooked on the plan, and the second she's sold, she orders curry for her whole party. Dukai-san skips the others and orders the tempura soba all for himself. Latteria shouts across the kitchen at Yakito, barking orders for that huge, complicated dish. While they wait, the Duchess leans in with quiet intensity and snaps Hazen's focus onto her. She leans in and orders him to tell the king. This drink pumps her full of fight-ready spirit. They bicker playfully over who gets to dash in and deliver the all-important message to the king. Hyzen looks around and realizes this place has lit a whole new fire under him. Heidi swears she'll spend her whole life perfecting their ale and cracking the shop's tech so they can replicate it forever. She knows this could take generations, but the moment it matters, her passion ignites like a spark that won't die. She flashes a knowing grin, already sensing her people will catch that wildfire enthusiasm for the new project. Hyzen clocks her fresh purpose and wears a tiny knowing smile like he expected it all along. He's certain her territory is about to become the most advanced, despite her fake sulky act of annoyance. The dwarves hit the jackpot when they realize spicy curry and ice-cold beer are the ultimate power combo. A fresh note spills the truth. Those dwarves can chug like machines, knocking back 5 beers each in just 1 hour. Duke Sasaki, the terrifying swordsman, stands dead calm as he sizes up a monstrous giant lizard. He strides forward with one sharp, intentional step toward the massive monster. A nearby adventurer yells in pure panic, convinced the swordsman's about to get killed for good. Unfazed, Sasaki calls out his name and coolly hunches in ready to swing. In a flash of steel, his gleaming katana cuts clean through the air like lightning. A razor-perfect silent slash slices into a monster's thick, scaly neck. He brushes off the powerful beast like it's too puny to even stand a chance. The witness finally points to the legend, Duke Sasaki, the great swordsman. The adventurer surges to a chilling conclusion. Sasaki isn't just a man. He's a war demon wearing a human face. A flashback kicks off, and suddenly we're face to face with a young Duke Sasaki, straight from the land of Frome. Then, the tale charges straight into a legendary tomb deep in the Ardard Empire. That tomb is his ancestor's stranger, Kojiro Sasaki, the world-saving hero who changed everything. His ancestor turned into a legend on pure skill alone. No magical gift, just raw talent and relentless mastery. As a kid, he worshipped his ancestor, acting out his heroics like he was the Great One himself. He wiped the floor with the other kids in swordplay games, swinging a wooden blade like it was nothing. From the time he was little, he was born with a fighter's instincts, already confident, already dangerous. He chased those legendary tales his ancestors passed down, their famous rivalry that refuses to die. His friends erupted into cheers, shouting his ancestor's legendary heroic name as if it were a war cry. Still, fate had wired him for blacksmithing because that was his true God-given talent, not swordsmanship. Ironically, it was his older brother who snagged the legendary swordsman's gift. His parents grab him by the shoulders and beg him to drop the sword and step into the craft fate has already picked for him. But he was dead set on one thing, becoming the strongest with pure skill, just like his hero. At 15, he bolted from home, chasing one unstoppable dream like it was the only thing that mattered. He roamed the wilds, smashing through tournament fights and diving into deadly dungeons. Even after countless losses, he didn't flinch. His fierce determination burned brighter than ever, without wavering for a second. He swore he'd get stronger and stronger, even if it shattered him from the inside out. For 30 straight years, he tore into the fight, then his own mission paid the price, and he lost his arm. Now he's stuck in a quiet, lonely routine, while the days when he fought like a beast are long gone. He sits there by himself, brooding over how the world refuses to give him even one worthy opponent. Suddenly, he catches a juicy rumor drifting from the nearby patrons. He hears about a brand new Sword King, the Alval, and the name of the woman behind it all, Lateria. He rockets straight to the Alval Adventurers Guild to throw down and challenge her right then. The receptionist tells him, straight to his face, that Lateria has already hung up her adventuring life. Stunned, he blurts out where she's at, only to find out she's working at a diner right now. He just can't wrap his head around how a Sword King could walk away from the warrior's path. The news guts him. His final hope for a real fight gets smashed to pieces. Deflated, he throws himself down to rest, trying to make sense of this gut punch of a turn. He points out how that once ruined castle has been rebuilt into something beautiful over the years. The moment that used to light a fire in him now crushes him into total emptiness. Then right out of nowhere, something unexpected snaps his attention, shattering his dark, quiet thoughts. He's staring down the impossible, otherworldly monument of Nadai Suja Soba towers there like a nightmare made real. He can't believe it. What kind of weird, totally alien building is this supposed to be? He clocks it's a diner instantly, but the location makes zero sense, like it shouldn't even exist. He leans in, eyes wide, and takes in the wild electric energy pulsing inside that eerie building. His gaze locks onto the sign, and the moment he sees that graceful calligraphic script, recognition hits him hard. Duke Sasaki stares at the shop sign, and the moment he sees the lettering, he knows it's practically Kojiro, his ancestor's hand. He still remembers being a little kid, staring at those weird characters from another world, trying to crack what they even meant. He clocks a Hinamoto stranger behind the counter, same vibe as Kojiro, and decides he's done wondering. He's going to dig in and investigate. The automatic door glides open with a snick, and the warrior flinches because he swears it's just magic dressed up as luxury. A flashback hits him, seeing that smiling young man from the past like a ghost in his mind. Inside, he stares at something unreal, commoners and nobles chowing down together like the world's rules don't exist. His razor-sharp gaze snaps onto the elf Tassaria, and he watches her tear into her food like it's the best thing she's ever tasted. A smiling Lateria steps up with a tray of steaming bowls and greets him like he's exactly where he belongs. She blurts out an apology, admitting the shop is packed, because right now they're swamped and running on full steam. With a sharp nod, he snaps up her offer an open seat, right at the roar of the bustling counter. He scoots beside Tassaria, and she's so locked in on her delicious meal that she doesn't even notice he's there. He drags the menu closer and leans in to inspect everything they've got, dying to find out what's on offer. Historic expression splits apart as he gapes at the menu, his brain scrambling to make sense of it. He digs through everything, clocking those wild little categories, odd soba types, strange side dishes, and even beer. Lateria comes back in a flash, smiling as she hands him a free glass of water right before he places his order. She tells him water's free and refills are always on the house. And Sasaki just freezes, utterly stunned. He grips the glass tight, eyes locked on those crystal-clear ice cubes swirling like they're perfectly frozen to time. He clocks it instantly. The ice isn't just cold, it's magic, and this kind of impossible luxury could never be handed out for free. With a razor-sharp stare, the legendary swordsman raises the glass and takes a slow, deliberate sip. That clean, pure flavor hits him like fresh mountain snowmelt, and he can't help but murmur, delicious. If the free water tastes this unreal, he's sure the food is going to blow his mind. The story snaps to a brutal, blistering summer day in the world of all S. Yakito daydreams about hearty meat soba, the stamina savor that fuels every hard worker. He can't help but grin as he remembers how cold meat soba was his go-to comfort meal, while he chased manga deadlines. He looks back at how his menus exploded from a pitiful 2 items to a massive spread that keeps expanding. But the shop's slammed 3 staffers are hustling at a breakneck pace, and it's clearly not going to last. Yakido grimaced as he admitted it to himself. This was bad. They were seriously short-staffed, no question. He can't help but wonder, can they really track down 1 or 2 more people to jump in and help them? Like the universe finally gave her permission, a tiny horned girl drops to the ground in a nearby shadowy alley. She clutches her stomach, tears blazing down her cheeks as she sobs. "I'm starting." The sunrise blasts over the city like a warning, and you can practically feel the next brutal day charging in. Yukito jolts upright in bed, already fired up to hash out the staffing mess with his team. He decides this is it today. He'll light a fire in his chest and track down a real solution. In the kitchen, Lateria and Chap beam at him with bright smiles, like they're ready to blast the day wide open. Right before their meeting, Yakito lays out a special treat, croquette soba and devils on a gyri to get things going. His staff lights up when they spot the fresh soba and the legendary delicious convenience store on the gyri. Yukito flashes a proud grin and lays out a simple yet genius recipe for the gyri's special staff meal. With bright, joyful grins, all 3 of them clasped their hands and shouted "Itadakimasu" like they were about to share something truly special. Chap takes his very first bite of the anjai rai, and his eyes shut tight as pure bliss floods his face. Yukito takes a bite of his own creation, his grin widening as pure satisfaction hits, because it's absolutely delicious. Lateria and Chap light up, grinning from ear to ear, straight up saying the onigiri's flavor hits different, like it's on another level entirely. Chap blurts out that it's the best thing ever, something he could chow down on every single morning and be perfectly happy. Outside, the starving girl's stomach growls in sharp pain while she watches them chow down, helpless. Hands slammed to the window, she whimpers, "I'm starving." With a tiny click, the back door's lock miraculously gives way, sliding open like it was waiting for him. She stumbles into the kitchen, her tiny shoe thumping the doorstop as she crosses the threshold. Just as Yakito is about to kick off their meeting, a sudden interruption blasts in, then cuts off in the middle of it. The moment her entries hit, the staff flinched, sending their meal grinding to a sudden stop. Yakito, Luteria, and Chapstare are slammed by a unified jolt of shock when that unexpected visitor suddenly shows up. The girl jabs a shaky finger at the plate, whispering that the triangle thing smells absolutely delicious. Chap freezes in confusion, swearing he locked the door before they even sat down to eat. Lateria points to the child and declares him a Mizoku, one of the demon races. Zu is a huge umbrella term. It can mean all kinds of people, even the mighty clan tied to that dragon. The tale whips back 2 weeks to the glorious Senkoku kingdom, where dragonettes ruled with absolute power. The king lays out a royal tradition. His kids get shipped into a 100-year training journey, and they don't start until they hit the big one. Oh, he says the nation's founder learned about the world this way, and that's exactly how he forged himself into someone unstoppable. He sends his daughter, Shorin, his warm wishes for her 100th birthday, and her smile flickers with nervous joy. The king slams his verdict down and announces this is finally her time to step into that brutal journey. Sharon panics on the spot, ranting that since she's the lowest in the lineup, this training is totally pointless for her. Her father's face contorts into a menacing grin. His decision snaps shut, final and impossible to undo. With a single go, he orders her to collapse, and she tumbles out of the throne room like it was ripped out from under her. The massive gates slam shut behind them as he screams at her, warning her not to come back until her 100 years are finally over. She bursts into the sky, drenched in tears, screaming in total despair, thinking, how am I even supposed to survive this? She's got just one real weapon unlock, a magical key that can tear open any lock in existence. It's a skill you barely need to survive, perfect only for dungeon explorers and thieves. She whips her head back and forth, flat out refusing to even entertain the idea of a life of crime. The moment she thought about battling monsters as an explorer, fear hit her like a wave. Even though she is part of the Mizoku, she makes it crystal clear killing just disgusts her. She shuts her eyes tight, despair crashing down, and thinks, how am I supposed to live like this for an entire century? She knows she has to lock onto someone she can trust in this huge, strange new world. A spark hits her mind. Duelon, her older brother, is out there on the same training journey too. A letter sealed 4 years back dropped a bombshell he was an Alval, right in the Cathedral Kingdom. With one goal burning in her chest, she commits she'll fly straight north to track him down. She swore that if she could just get to her brother, somehow everything would click back into place. No money for an inn, so she gives up and curls up in the trees for the night. A lone bird cuts across the sky, and just like that, her long, miserable journey begins. That pampered princess treats even a rough, hard branch like it's cruel torture. She can't believe she's stuck there asleep. A monstrous spider plummets right in front of her face, and terror rips out of her in a full-blown scream. She wobbles on the branch for a split second, then she topples, tumbling out of the tree and down into open air. She crashes into a freezing, roaring river, while her deal slips deeper into disaster with every single minute. At last, in Alval, she corners the innkeeper and demands to know if he's seen her brother Duelon. The innkeeper leans in and asks if she's hunting another Mazoku. She nods and confirms Duelon still isn't anywhere to be found. The woman tells her, straight up, Duelon vanished for another country over a year ago, and it crushes Sharon's last shred of hope. Sharon blurts out, desperate, "Where did you go?" But the innkeeper just shakes his head. He has no clue. Her last shred of hope shattered every step of that brutal, endless journey, ended in nothing but ruin. The innkeeper leans in and asks if she needs a room for the night, but the moment she mentions a shower, she shuts that offer down and walks away. She whispers that she's got no money, then slips back out into the night like she's vanishing before anyone can stop her. She drifts through the empty city streets, and her stomach starts growling like it's starving for survival. She whispers to herself, panicking as she realizes she hasn't eaten since morning. She can't even wrap her head around enduring this for 100 straight years, like how is that even possible? Tears brim in her eyes as she aches for the warmth of home in the kingdom. She clung to memories of her spotless bed, her gorgeous outfits, and the servants who hovered by her side, ready to serve her every need. She remembers those never-ending feasts of mouth-watering food that always showed up the second her stomach started growling. Tears flood her face as the truth hits. She had everything in her hands, and still she never once truly valued it. As her tears spill, a gut-punch realization hits her all at once, like the truth finally breaking through. Her whole life of luxury was bought with her people's blood and their taxes too. They only tended to her because she was a princess, never because they cared who she truly was. She finally realizes her privileged life wasn't guaranteed. It's something she could have lost at any moment. You're telling me she's just a girl, and you think she'd never get treated like this? Yeah, right. A calm, heavy acceptance washes over her as the real lesson of her journey finally clicks, and I go, I see. Her father's brutal lesson on royal duty hit her like a punch, and tears spilled down her face. Alone in a dark alley, a gnawing hunger curled up beside her like a cruel, hungry shadow. She clutched her tattered clothes to her chest, begging the world for any living job she could get. She swore she'd gladly take any meal that came her way and bow her head to any work offered. With a jolt of fresh resolve, she clenched her jaw and swore she'd give it everything she had. When morning finally cracked open, she stood in this strange city, drained to the bone but still fueled by pure determination. Her aimless wandering dragged her straight to an impossible building, wedged right into the castle wall like it shouldn't exist. She froze, staring in pure confusion like, what the hell is this place even? The walls were see-through, shimmering like glass, nothing like it had ever touched her eyes before. When she leaned in, she spotted 3 people huddled around a table, shoving food in their mouths. A heavy wave of longing crashed through her as she watched that happy scene unfold. Her eyes locked onto a wild, triangular piece of food in someone's hand. Pure hunger, no hesitation. Tired eyes still flickered like hope was quietly daring her to believe in something. Inside, the staff dig into a shared meal, faces glowing with pure, joyful teamwork. Seeing their warmth only made her feel lonelier than ever, like the world had shut its lights off. Their easy smiles were a whole different universe from the dark, grim trap she was stuck in. She couldn't stop gushing, thinking about how unbelievably delicious their food had to be. A painful memory ripped open her own family, smiling, sharing happy meals together. One brutal thought slammed into her head. Me too. Her desperation snapped into a steel-hard resolve she couldn't be broken out of. With her strange gift, the locked back door clicked loose and swung open right in front of her. She just wanted to slip inside, chase that warmth, and feel like she finally belonged. She slipped into the door like a shadow and slipped straight into the mysterious shop's kitchen. Her tiny beat-up shoes finally hit the ground in a brand new world. She inched up to the staff, panicking for the right words to get out of her mouth. With her voice locked away, she could only raise a trembling finger, pointing straight at the one thing her heart was begging for. The three staff members exchanged baffled looks. Thrown off by that strange girl, they leaned in, desperate to catch what her silent plea was begging them to understand. She finally leaned in and whispered that the triangle thing looked straight up irresistibly delicious. Her weird request slammed into Chap and Lateria like a brick wall, leaving them totally dumbfounded. Yakito lifted the rice ball and it finally clicked in her head what she'd been trying to say. He asked if she meant Anjai Rai, the name that sounded totally alien to her. He leaned in, told her what it was called, and handed her one right away to eat. She gaped in disbelief at his generosity, blurting out, "Are you sure it's really okay?" Blows of kindness hit her so hard she just froze, completely unable to speak. Her hope crashed when she finally confessed she couldn't pay a single cent. She knew she couldn't just stuff her face and vanish from a real diner. Yukito flashed a grin and told her she was totally fine because there was no way she'd ever be for sale. He pressed her again, urging her to go on and dig in so she'd finally eat. With her heart pounding, she finally stretched out and grabbed it. She hugged the food to her chest, choking back tears of pure gratitude as they spilled down her face. Her tiny hands shook as she clutched the rice ball like it was the most precious thing in the world. With every last ounce of strength, she sank her teeth into that first bite of her new life. A burst of flavor slammed into her senses, overwhelming, breathtaking, and impossible to ignore. That first bite hit like magic. She felt her whole soul ignite, like something unbelievable had finally found its way in. She tasted the sweet grain and instantly picked up that salty fermented kick. She bit down and got that satisfying crunch. Then the oil burst on her tongue, rich, savory, and impossible to forget. At last, that undeniable ocean umami hit like the final note that locked the whole flavor symphony into place. One single scorching word slammed into her mind, and it tasted like pure sweet power. She felt pure, soul-deep peace, like someone had reborn her inside a blooming lotus. Pure joy hit her, like lightning tears streamed down her face as she savored every last taste. Spotted her hunger, Chap stepped in fast and offered her his own portion too. Lateria happily offered to fetch her water because she refused to let anyone choke. Yukito swore he'd set out a hot meal right now, claiming he'd whip up some croquette soba at once. She squeezed the second rice ball in her hands, chasing a hope she thought she'd lost for good. She had zero clue what croquette soba even was. But the second she heard it, her excitement exploded. She knew that everything coming out of this cozy place would taste absolutely unreal. She wolfed down her food so fast she started choking, and full-blown panic hit like a freight train. Chap and Lateria bolt over to the choking girl, ready to pull her back from the edge. Lateria flashed a smile, pressed the glass into her hands, and warned her to sip it slow. Yukito looked her over, and she flashed him a tiny smile, nodding happily back. After weeks of heaviness, a real smile finally lit up her lips. Wrapped in their kindness, she felt like she'd finally found a real family. Then the Daisuja soba flashed a brilliant sign in the light, glowing like a beacon that screamed, "Hope is right there." After they finished eating, Yakito showed her the tradition of giving thanks. She tilted her head, eyes sharp, and asked him what that gesture was supposed to mean. He told me it was his way of saying, "Thanks for that amazing meal," like a heartfelt little bow. Washed by the smiling staff, she copied the heartfelt gesture so perfectly, it felt like the real thing. Her stomach settled, and she finally cracked and apologized for barging into the shop without being invited. Then she stood up straight, introduced herself with full confidence as Shaorin Senkoku's 8th princess. The staff went stone still when they realized they'd just fed starving royalty. She leaned in and revealed it was a royal tradition, a brutal 100-year training quest, passed down like a curse for generations. They were absolutely wrecked by the thought of a brutal 100-year journey where life kept punching them. The sheer weight of her task slammed into them so hard they went speechless for a beat. Yukito blurted out his shock at her age, then she calmly revealed she'd lived for ages. He fought to wrap his mind around the wild, mind-blowing truths of this brand new world. He couldn't stomach turning someone away just because they looked like a kid. He grumbled that her family should have forked over at least some money. Chap had a practical question burning in his mind. He demanded to know why the Mizoku couldn't just survive in the dungeon as an explorer. The moment that idea hit her, the young princess jerked her head back in pure horror. She admitted, straight up, that fighting disgusts her. She can barely stand to watch anyone else throw down. Latteria leaned in and said the Mizoku weren't one single type at all. They were a whole mix of people, shaped by the gods themselves. Chap finally clocked it. Mizoku adventurers barely ever showed up in the dungeon. Then he shot the idea at her. Maybe she should try her hand as a mercenary. Her eyes bulged with pure terror as she blurted out that she hated killing people. Yakito met her eyes with raw empathy, like he instantly understood why she hated violence. He nodded like it was inevitable, then said straight up he didn't want to throw hands either. He waved off the chap's confusion, telling him, "Don't stress, this isn't a big deal." He leaned in and asked Sharon what she was planning to do, but she just shut down, no answer at all. She confessed she had no clue she'd never had a job before, not once. Despair crushed her as she stared into the impossible question, how on earth could she live another 100 years? She knew she couldn't fight, couldn't fix anything, and had zero physical muscle to survive out there. Latteria begged the manager to act, and he just nodded like he was ready to move. Yakido whipped his head toward the young princess, and a cunning plan sparked to life in his mind. He pitched one simple idea, "Come work for them, why don't you?" The offer hit her like a thunderclap. She froze, mouth shut, eyes bulging with pure shock. Her future co-workers erupted in cheers, praising the manager's brilliant idea like it was pure genius. Their wants clicked instantly. This shop needed workers, and she needed something steady. He understood that even with her royal status, this was the smartest road forward. With a warm, kind smile, Yakito steps in and offers the lost princess a real job right there in his shop. He sweet-talks him with a killer offer, steady pay, and 3 full meals every single day. Showering is completely stunned, basically unable to believe this insanely generous offer is actually real. She leans in and asks, almost daring anyone to answer, "Am I really allowed to stay here, even if I'm just a stranger?" Yakito and his crew check her out and tell her straight she can do it, but she has to work right alongside them. Sharon shyly can't stop wondering, does this mean she gets to sink her teeth into his delicious onigiri again? Yakito bursts into laughter, swearing he'll whip up tons of other mouth-watering dishes for her to try next. He tells them the real truth. People should chow down on exactly what they crave. Nidai Sujisoba lives by one unshakable belief, and he declares it with absolute conviction. Shaken to the core, Shorin chokes back tears and accepts, swearing she'll grind twice as hard from here on out. She sinks into a deep bow, pleading with them for one chance to work at the shop. Yukito blurted out a huge beam of welcome, officially rolling out the red carpet for their newest employee, Sharon Shawn. 5 days later, Sharon is at it again, pushing through the chaos in her shop as customers flood in non-stop. In the kitchen, she crashes a plate to the floor, stammering apologies, while Chap stays ice calm and sweeps up every shard. She drops her head in shame and murmurs, "I'm just too clumsy, I can't help it." He reassures her, but she still sighs and grumbles that she broke a plate just yesterday. Yukito beams and yells that smashing plates isn't a mess. It's just her way of proving she's really grinding. She lets out a shy thanks to the chap for his kindness. Then he tells her to wash the dishes. She admits the work is brutal, but the moment she's here, pure happiness lights up her whole heart. Yakito swore his gift can block any real monster from ever getting inside. She knows work isn't always a blast because that loud crash sound effect basically screams it. But when her shift finally ends, the staff meal hits her with an incredible smell that feels like a reward earned with every ounce of effort. She can't help thinking those staff meals her manager serves are ridiculously delicious every single time. Yakido hands her her absolute favorite, the devil's onigiri, and wow, it's straight up demonically perfect. Because of him, she didn't just learn to eat rice, she started craving it, and every bite felt mysteriously alive. A caption flashes in today's staff meal is literally her own special request. Coming straight from her, Yakito slides out a plate piled with freshly grilled giri and tells her to finally take a break. Shorin's electrified, her whole body locks up, trembling with pure, unfiltered excitement. Yeah, she breaks down and cries, shouting that she'd been waiting for this all day long. He tells her it's scorching, but then points out that a dragonite's tough hide can take the heat. Just before that glorious, shimmering, yucky rice balls crackled on a hot, ridged grill. sizzling like pure gold. She clasps her hands in pure gratitude, blurts out "dakamasu," and then takes her first bite like she can't wait another second. She bites into the onajirai, and that crisp, crackling crunch floods her mouth with instant satisfaction. A sharp snap fills the air, and that grilled exterior crunch feels so perfect it's almost addictive. A single tear of joy blooms in her eye as that crushing wave of flavor hits her like a tidal wave. She realizes the texture is totally different once it hits the grill. The rice turns tough and hard, but she shuts her eyes tight and savors that jaw-dropping flavor like she's finally back where she belongs. Warm rice meets smoky grilled soy sauce, and that gentle sweetness hits your senses like a delicious wave. She lets out this sweet little sigh of satisfaction, convinced it tastes absolutely perfect. She shrugs off the debate and thinks, no matter what happens, an onigiri is still an onigiri. Dressed up with a swipe of soy sauce and tossed on the grill, its mouth-watering goodness stays exactly the same. She can't believe something this bold can twist without shredding its simple, perfect charm. On that spotless white plate, only one perfect triangular rice ball is left, shining like it survived everything. With a grin, she eagerly licks the last sticky, delicious soy sauce right off her fingers. Just as she reaches for the last piece, a hand slides in and gently stops her mid-grab. Latteria swoops in with a whole stack of bowls and a grin that says she's got the plan figured out. She grins at Sharon, tells her to wait a second, then finishes her meal. Luteria stands right beside her, practically buzzing, ready to unveil a brand new culinary secret that'll blow your mind. She snatches the last grilled one off the girai. Its final bite is a delicious mystery that hits Sharon like a secret, finally revealed. She says the only way to nail it is to finish it with a dashi shizuki. Showering cranes his head. Totally baffled, he's never even heard the name dashi shizuki before. From the kitchen, Yakito leans in and tells them dashi is their secret soba soup base. Latteria snaps out an order, put that final onajirai into the empty bowl. The smoky grilled rice ball finally drops dead center into the deep, dark bowl, landing there like it was meant to be. Latteria tells them the next move is simple. Pour that steaming dashi straight over it. She expertly ladles the steaming broth onto the onajirai, and Sharon watches, frozen in awe. With one last gentle flourish, she shakes on a shower of finely chopped green onions. She gasped as the beauty hit her eyes blazing wide, breathing in that sweet, fragrant miracle in front of her. The finished dish lands in front of her, a stunning burst of color and a mouth-watering aroma that hits like a victory. She can't help but stare, golden dashi glowing, onions flashing pure white, and a soft ribbon of steam curling up like a warm promise. Latteria slides over a pair of chopsticks, daring her to dig into the special meal. She tells Sharon to smash the rice ball apart while she sips that warm, steamy broth. Luterius flashed a confident grin, fully certain it'd taste amazing, then hurried to shower with thanks, grateful all the way. Sharon can't help but see Latteria as a gentle, older sister figure, even with the age gap between them. She looks around and realizes every single person in the shop is pure kindness, and she instantly falls in love with them all. Standing here hits our chest like a warm wave, filling us with that real, undeniable feeling of belonging. It's happiness she's never once been able to feel, not even in the cold, echoing halls of the royal palace. Her eyes blaze with anticipation as she gets ready for her very first taste. So yeah, she's convinced it's my turn to warm up my body with this dish. She raises the bowl to her mouth and sips the broth slow, like she's savoring every warm drop. Warm steam curls upward, and that comforting, mouth-watering smell rushes right to her. It's a soft, round flavor that lets that nostalgic dashi taste take the spotlight. Latteria's voice cuts through the moment, urging her to break that rice ball apart as she eats. She slips her chopsticks in and teases the onajirai apart, like it's finally giving in tender and soft in that steaming broth. She can barely wait. Then she dives into the mix of rice, broth, and onion, tasting it like pure excitement. Her eyes blow wide with shock as that insane flavor detonates on her tongue. She lets out a soft, muffled hum, pure pleasure flooding through her with every bite. In her head, she climbs to some higher realm, wailing that it tastes absolutely divine. It hits like a blinding burst of light, one instant where everything clicks and the flavor turns into pure perfection. She grips the bowl with shaking hands, hit so hard by a flavor so deep and comforting, it feels like it's healing her whole soul. Tears of pure joy pour down her cheeks as she savors every single spoonful, like it's a miracle. Finally, she plops the totally empty bowl down and lets out a soft, satisfied sigh. A blissful smile blooms across her face as she lets out a joyful, triumphant foe. She claims that this meal is even better than anything the palace has ever served. She's stunned by the manager's talent turning plain, everyday ingredients into dishes that look like pure magic. She can't stop daydreaming. Part of her desperately wants to stay right here for every second of her training. But she knows humans burn through time fast, and their goodbye is coming far too soon. Just picturing that final, unavoidable separation sends fresh tears spilling into her eyes. But because of that, she steels her resolve and vows to do everything she can to help every last one of them. The story yanks us far away to the breathtaking Ishitaka mountain range. A band of pilgrims stares up at the towering peaks, breathless with gratitude, like they just finally earned the right to stand at this holy site. A pilgrim's tears spill with pure joy he made it here, and he's grateful he got to walk this far before it was too late. Their guide drops the bomb. The mountains are off limits from now on. The pilgrims nod in unison, convinced a guardian deity still has the sacred mountain in its ironclad grip. Turns out the sacred beings of Ashataka aren't spirits at all. They're elves hiding in total seclusion right here. Teo, a young elf, slams his finished work down and can't help but stare, watching the mountain's brutal beauty beat against the wind. This mountain is a mana sump, a place where magical energy naturally pools and gathers like it's alive. The elves have carved out a tiny settlement here, thriving on the mountain's bounty. The mountain's got one more massive treasure, and now Teo tends it with total focus. He gears up for the autumn planting of their prized Gigamo the potato. In the wild Ishitaka Mountains, a young elf named Teo worked his fields like it was the only fight he knew. While he was working, a sudden incoming noise snapped his full attention. A messenger bird came rocketing out of the sky, then landed smooth as silk on his arm. He spotted a glowing sigil on its leg and knew right away that it was a tame creature. This magical tame gift let the user take total control of animals at will. Teo clocked a messenger bird in the distance, hauling a crucial scroll straight toward him. He cracked open the message and his mind immediately raced, begging the question who on earth was reaching out to him. The moment he cracked open the letter, seriousness slammed into his face and worry followed right behind. A letter from his aunt had arrived, stamped to her beloved nephew, Teo. She wrote that she had something huge to talk about, especially when it came to his cousin, Tessaria. He clung to one hazy memory of Tessaria, his fiancée, someone he hadn't seen in 30 straight years. His aunt was shaking with worry. Tessaria hadn't sent a single word in 10 brutal years. She practically begged Teo to go make sure she was okay. Teo felt split down the middle. He had his own duties and fields to tend, and he couldn't ignore either. He already knew that his flight magic gift would turn the whole journey into a blur. His rare gift let him rip through the sky like it was nothing, shrugging off the brutal terrain below. Right when his mind was racing, his father's voice cut through the air, calling his name from inside the house. His father, propped up in bed, demanded that he must go to Tessaria. Teo put up a fight, insisting his father's back pain made it impossible for him to leave. After his mother died, it was just the two of them. His sister headed off to start her own life, leaving him with nobody but her. His father gave a knowing smile, like he'd been expecting this exact mess all along. He yanked it from a hidden compartment and pulled out a tiny, ornate vial he'd been hoarding for who knows how long. Teo stared in disbelief and blurted to his father, "What on earth is this mysterious potion?" The old elf's eyes burned with light as he uttered one legendary word, panacea. Teo blurted out in total disbelief, frozen as he heard the legendary healing potion's name. Panacea was a legendary elixir said to heal the incurable and even bring back lost limbs. His father leaned in and told him the treasure wasn't just some random find. It was something Teo's own grandfather uncovered. Teo confessed he'd heard whispers about the discovery, but he never once expected his own family to be wrapped up in it. The old elf choked on regret, knowing he'd never once gotten to use it on his late wife. Even that legendary panacea couldn't do a thing. Nothing could bring the dead back. He swore he'd use it to heal his back, so Teo could finally go without a single worry. Teo couldn't hold it together, overwhelmed by his father's jaw-dropping selflessness. His father wouldn't let it go. He pressed the point again and again. Tessaria was his fiancée, and she deserved what was coming. Before Teo could fire off another word, his father snapped the vial open with zero hesitation. He chugged the whole legendary potion in one single gulp. The old elf jerked back in shock and screamed that the taste was utterly disgusting. Teo flashed a grateful smile at his father, then swore he'd go to Tessaria. A few days later, Teo finally rolled up to the royal capital, massive, intimidating, and impossible to ignore. He pulled out his letter and double-checked it. Tessaria was locked in at the Third Research Institute. He instantly figured it out. This has to be a state-run place, and the only place like that is inside the royal castle. At the main gate, the guards shoved in front of him and barked him back, sealing off his path. He begged his case, but they slammed the door shut and refused to let the elf through without a permit. Their heated argument got cut off when a nobleman's fancy carriage rolled up like it owned the whole street. Teo blurted Saria's name at the top of his lungs, desperate for anyone to hear him. A man hopped down from the carriage because he'd just caught the name Tessaria in someone's talk. She introduced himself as Marquis Conte and dropped the bomb that Aztav Teo was her relative. Teo froze in shock because he couldn't figure out how this stranger even knew about his fiancée. Cantes leaned in and told her, "I'm a noble Tessaria once saved my life." He leaned in and demanded to know if Teo really trekked all the way to the institute just to see her. A tiny chibi Teo popped onto the Marquis's shoulder and peered around like he was dying to find answers. Cantas let out a regretful sigh and told him Tessaria was stuck on a long assignment in Alva. After riding out with the Marquis, Teo finally rolled into Alville, the blazing, non-stop city lights, and noise hitting him like a wave. Because elves were practically extinct, he figured finding her would be easy. With shaky nerves, he marched right up to the tough-looking man with those spiky black hair, like trouble had a face. He stopped a stranger and demanded to know if they knew a female elf hiding anywhere in the city. His face snapped into a huge grin as he leaned in and asked about the big eating elf. Teo's jaw dropped because the Tessaria he knew wasn't supposed to be this delicate. He couldn't help wondering if this was really the same elf from his image, the kind he'd pictured as dainty little eaters. He blurted out, "What is this Suja Soba place the guy keeps talking about?" The man nailed it. He guessed Teo was brand new in town, and Teo confirmed it on the spot. He smirked and basically shrugged like, "Of course I hadn't heard of it back then." He practically beamed as he announced that Tsuji Soba was the most popular diner in the whole city. He told Tao exactly where to go, pointing out that it was built right up against the old castle wall. He told them the regulars might have clues, because elves are so rare, you don't just see them every day. Teo was left wide-eyed, because that lead came in so helpful and so specific it felt like fate. He poured out thanks non-stop, and the man just grinned and waved him away with a bright, cheerful goodbye. With grit in his eyes, Teo decided to go scope out that diner. He stared in disbelief. This shop was packed beyond reason, and the line snaked right out the door. He froze in stunned silence, cheeks burning, staring hard like he couldn't believe it was this really the legendary Sudi Soba. He stared at that sleek, modern building and watched it tower over everything around it, like it didn't belong anywhere else. Even with country-hardened eyes, it was obvious this shop wasn't just special. It was unlike anything else. Suddenly, his gaze snapped to a familiar face sitting right inside. He spotted an elf sitting at the counter, and it hit him. This had to be the one they warned him about. He clenched his resolve, bracing for whatever horrors or surprises waited inside. He sucked in a deep breath and shoved himself to the very back of that massive, winding line. After what felt like 30 lifetimes of nerves, he finally shoved through and reached the very front of the line. The door swung open, and from inside, a voice barked, "Next customer." Just as his hand shot toward the handle, the door jerked open by itself. He yelped in full-on shock, completely thrown off by the sudden move. He snapped himself back into focus and knew this had to be some seriously advanced magical device. A little horned girl with a swishy tail was showering, yet she still greeted him politely inside the shop. A disembodied hand swooped in and patted her head, praising her right for that perfect greeting. Shower groaned out an apology, admitting the seeds were jam-packed right now. Then she shot a finger at a free spot at the counter beside the other elf. Teo suddenly realized he'd be stuck sitting right next to the very person he came to find. He flashed the little waitress a warm smile and thanked her for every bit of help she'd given. He stared at the counter receiver's food transfer with pure can-to-look-away delight. She tore into her noodles with this crazy, passionate hunger, something he'd never seen from anyone, ever. He shoved up to the counter, and his heart started hammering like it couldn't wait a single second more. He leaned in close and asked real softly if the seat beside her was still taken. Still chewing her meal, she didn't even glance up. She just told him to go ahead. She finally spun toward him with a bright, unstoppable smile. And the moment their eyes locked, you could feel the recognition hit. A jolt of pure shock hit them as they both shrieked each other's names across the diner.